It's free. Jeremiah Love trying to go 98. Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ancio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in 365 Sports. Paul and Craig today. Smokey is off back in Austin. Another Thursday. 3 Thursdays in a row to open that high school football season. Craig, you and I did that for a very long time. We never had a season like that. We had like a random Thursday or two, but never right in a row to start the season. I think half of Midway's games are on Thursday. So next Friday, Smokey will be out. Next Thursday, he'll be here. So just updating our viewers and listeners on where he is and how weird that schedule is.
Yeah, I mean, starting Monday, we should at least have like consecutive shows where we're all three here because it's been a while now since that's happened. But yeah, high school football going on, and he's busy with that, with the weird scheduling. Yeah, I don't recall ever having even back-to-back Thursdays, much less like 3 of them to start off a season. But that's where we are, where he is, and I can say with confidence through 3 weeks, I don't miss it at all. I've had the best start to fall ever based on like some changes this offseason, including not doing high school. Not that I don't still like respect the game and love what it means and what all it entails. But yeah, I just did it I did my time for certain. And so he's still doing it, still plugging away. So good luck to Midway later on tonight. And they're off to a really nice start. So yeah, let's see if they can keep it up, and he'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah. It's this is my 3rd year not doing it. I guess. And yeah, I haven't, it's a lot of work. It's very stressful. But Smokey loves it. So he keeps on keeping on. He's stronger than I am, I suppose. Not a lot of headlines today, Craig, when it comes down to it, and all the stuff we go. So I threw a couple other things. Like I want to talk about the coach's hot seat with you. I talked about it in the top 5 yesterday. Didn't really get your thoughts on a lot of them, and I would like to talk about that with you here in a little bit. Also, a couple of interesting Thursday, Friday games we can get to. Sam Kahn on the show at 3:30. John Kurtz talking about what's going on with Kansas State at 4 o'clock. We've got our picks off the radar. Ohio State and revenue sharing in the Big Ten is something you sent along, Craig, which is really interesting when it comes to the realignment world and what's in the future. And Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com on the show today.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I don't know, maybe you guys have noticed this as well, but the first couple of weeks, it's always busy, like Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday. And then like we get to Thursday and all of a sudden it gets really quiet. I think just because everybody's hatched in for the weekend at that point. And so a lot of the news is already flown out. And plus you don't have any more rankings or players of the week being released. That always churns the waters a lot, makes it a lot busier. But yeah, Thursdays have kind of been like that quiet sort of transitional day into the full-fledged weekend, although we do have a game tonight, as we'll talk about. But I'm okay with that because we're getting a lot of news as is, and allows us an opportunity to kind of maybe take a look at some other things. And, yeah, that Ohio State story, It's involving the fact that Ohio State's kind of letting it be known now that they are going to want more money when the new deals come around. And this stems back to what we saw in the Big 12 historically when they were trying to appease their big brands, and then what the ACC's recently done with FSU to keep them happy along with Clemson. And we know there's the cage rattling still going on there, but you wonder how the trickle down effect is going to occur, especially when in Ohio State, for example, looks around and goes, well, if Florida State and Miami are getting more money because Wake Forest or whoever's not pulling up their end of the bargain and bringing the hay into the barn, then, well, damn, we're looking at Purdue going, why do you deserve as much money as we do? And you knew this was going to happen at some point because it's happened previously. But now that we're getting into like this, whatever this new era is, whether it's the Super League era or not, it's certainly taken shape to possibly become that. Or it's just going to be an era where everything kind of stays pretty much status quo with maybe a little movement. And the big difference is that the big brands are clearing away the biggest brands, and even in their own leagues, like financially and all that entails as well. So that's going to be interesting, and we'll get more into like that exact conversation a little later.
Yeah, I mean, I think my point of view is going to be, why, if you're Ohio State, would you not hold anybody hostage if you could? You know, because they just did it.
History.
Like, yeah, I mean,
guess,
like other than like, who cares? Like, if you're Ohio State, who cares about bad PR? Like,
everybody right now is grabbing as much cash as they can. The richest people in the world have never been greedier. So I think that kind of goes across the board, that the haves want as much as they possibly can, and there's never enough. And they don't really care about the have-nots. And I think that's becoming clearer and clearer in college sports here in the future as well. So we'll see. We'll get more into like exactly where this came from. It's a story that was out, I guess, last night. Didn't have a lot of play at the time, but I'd noticed it and thought it would be interesting to talk about. So yeah, we'll dive into that a little later.
Yeah, okay. Just a quick rundown through the news. The NCAA is looking into cases that involve 13 former men's basketball student athletes who competed at 6 schools at the time of the conduct in question for manipulating games with sports betting, their performance, betting against their own teams. Those schools were formerly associated with Eastern Michigan, Temple, Arizona State, New Orleans, North Carolina A&T, and Mississippi Valley. Additional cases are in the various stages of the investigation process. Arizona State, next one, they are aware of this. It's one or more former athletes, and they said that they are aware, and they're, the athletes no longer involved. The university cooperated fully with all inquiries and was not implicated in any way. Craig, I don't see the schools getting really in trouble here, because it appears that, one, the backstops that the gambling sites have to make sure that point shaving and things like that get caught have worked in these cases. And like, this is one of the easiest things for kids to do now, especially with prop bets, is, I could I could get the over on 6 points. Like, okay, well then I'm going to just shoot more tonight, or I'm going to get the under on 15 points. Well, I'll just shoot less. Like basketball. If you remember back in the 80s, this is actually a small part of Goodfellas, but there was the Boston College point shaving scandal, that Henry Hill was a part of. And so I think college basketball is the one that's the easiest to do in those things, because like football, it's really hard to fumble on purpose and not get caught, right? It's really hard to do. Like baseball, maybe you just, toy soldier it and strike out 5 times or something like that. But basketball, man, it's pretty easy to, for prop betting, especially, to just not hit those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, there's money to be made. We were just talking about money a second ago. It makes the world go round. And if you see an opportunity as a basketball player, I guess, to risk your entire career and reputation for a few $1,000s or whatever it was these guys were getting in the long run, I guess that's a risk you thought was worth taking. So we'll see what's on the other end of this. We've had a lot of like big scandals that turn out to be bupkis in the end, that are nothing that they appear to be on the surface. Even in the Iowa State story, like, remember how big that was initially, and then the investigation went along, and as it went along, you're like, well, this is not quite what I thought at first, and turns out in the long run to not be nearly as big of a deal as it was presented to be initially. But yeah, this one is, I think, your nightmare if you're athletic directors and people just trying to keep the game as innocent as possible, whether it be college basketball or college football or anything else for that matter. And yeah, you just don't know really, I guess, how to completely stomp it out at this point. I mean, how do you? There's the threat of being banned for life. But if you're some dude at Eastern Michigan who's like more worried about money than this career that's probably not going anywhere, maybe you're just fed up. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what goes through people's minds. I've never been a gambling type of guy, much less as a current student athlete, knowing that it's against the rules. So yeah, there's money to be made. You're going to find people trying to bend whatever rules there are. And I think college athletes are definitely in the crosshairs of a lot of this potential havoc that can be caused because of sports gambling, because there's so many of them in so many different sports, and they're not all making big, huge money either. So yeah, if you're some basketball player, feel like you can, I guess, miss a couple buckets, or about an injury and you relay that to somebody and then they relay it, and next thing you know, there's weird bets coming in. The good news is they're able to track that kind of stuff at least somewhat nowadays, and that's part of this here. Started noticing unusual betting activity. So they will conduct their investigation, I guess, and we'll see what happens. But good to know that nobody's still involved. And yeah, I think we're just going to see a lot more of this moving forward, just because it's just such commonplace now to place a bet whenever, however, wherever, and there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really, it's a simple thing to do. And not all these guys are getting a bunch of NIL. Not all these guys.
Well, you look at the schools you named, like New Orleans, and who else did you?
Eastern Michigan,
North Carolina, A&T, Mississippi Valley State. Temple's a bigger school. Arizona State's the biggest school of all of these, but the rest of them, I don't think they're making a ton of NIL. Now, again, some of these guys got suspended. 4 players from New Orleans were suspended last season as part of a gambling investigation. So it's not all going without being caught, but yeah, I think it would obviously be a much bigger story if this was like North Carolina and Duke and Texas Tech and whoever, but it's smaller school guys, so maybe that plays into it, that you're not making that type of cash, so this is how you can, and you feel like you're smart enough to get away with it, but clearly you weren't in this case. So I think at least a couple times a year we're going to see stories like this in some sport involving college athletics, and that's just the world we live in nowadays.
Yeah. Absolutely. This weekend, Texas takes on UTEP. They'll be down 3 starters for this game. Contravian Wisner, Alex January, and DeAndre Moore Jr. unlikely to play. Now, to beat UTEP, they probably don't need these guys, but Contravian Wisner in particular sticks out to me. If his injury lingers, Texas has had really bad luck having their full running back room, which may be if they ever got all their guys the last few years healthy at the same time in the running back room, I don't know how anybody could stop that. They have a hard enough time as it is with the backups that they've had, but they've had really bad luck at the injury position. Not a season-ending injury for Wisner, but if he's out for any kind of prolonged amount of time, that's a hit to the offense, because he has proven himself to be one hell of a good player.
We saw him at Connolly before he was really much of a name in the recruiting world, or he was about to become that. I mean, he was silky smooth and a glider and a guy who just made some plays in scenarios where only guys that you talk about when they're in the NFL, you're like, man, when I saw this kid in high school, he was that type of dude that made those sorts of plays that you remember. And I can remember in particular a Connolly game where it's heated. It might have been China Spring or something, and they needed a 4th and 7 conversion, I want to say. And there's no way. There's no way, the way this game's going, the way this defense is playing, there's not a scenario in which you're going to pick up a 4th and 7 without chucking the ball somewhere and just getting lucky. And they give it to Wisner, and he slips and slides his way to a 25-yard touchdown. It was ridiculous. And I was just like, man, this kid is so special. And then he gets to Texas, and he first he went to DeSoto, his 3rd high school. That's also becoming kind of commonplace nowadays, but had a great send-off or final year at DeSoto, powerhouse in Texas, and then ends up at UT. And when we've seen him, he's looked great, man. He's so talented, but yeah, that's a bummer to not have him available. I don't think it'll make any difference in this game. None of these injuries will make any difference in this game, but yeah, you need to get your guys healthy if you're Texas, and you want to see them all healthy at the same time, because as you mentioned, they've got such depth, especially at the skill spots, that you want to see what a whole fully healthy running back room, for example, can produce. So yeah, hopefully Trey gets better quick. And I know Texas will be fine for at least right now, but we are getting into conference play here pretty soon. So these things start to add up, and maybe, depending on the way they add up, change the trajectory of your season. I don't think that's the case here, but we'll see how long some of these guys are out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I don't think it's going to be long for DeAndre Moore Jr. But again, like it just, you don't want lingering injuries at all. And Texas, look, despite the fact they've got one loss, they're still Texas. They're still a really good team. But, you know, part of the thing that makes them a really good team is that they have depth. And when that depth gets hurt, you know, they're certainly more vulnerable.
Yeah, and I don't know what the prognosis is on Trey and how long he's going to be out. They were fine without him last week against San Jose State, which you'd expect him to be. But now here's a second game in a row. So, yeah, I'm curious on him in particular. Just a guy that we're going to always have a little soft spot for, because we got to watch him do his thing here locally. Yeah,
and like, it's one of those things that there are guys that I'll always remember the kind of when the light bulb came on, and they had a game, a very important district game against China Spring, where it's like he realized, like, oh, wait, I'm the best athlete out here. Mm-hmm. Like, it finally clicked to him, because there were some games early in the year where, you know, he kind of got knocked around a little bit, and being a sophomore and a young guy, I think got intimidated. And then finally, the coaching staff kind of got it through his head, like, you know, if you go as hard as you can go all the time, there's not a player on either team that can be on the field with you.
Yeah, no, I did high school football for 20 plus years, and I saw some really great players, and he's one of the best players I've ever seen. He's probably top 10. And I just say top 5. I don't know about that, because
you're from East Texas.
East Texas. I saw a lot of dudes. Like, I did Patrick Mahomes high school games. Like, I mean, there's number 1 for you. Yeah. Receiver at White House, the same high school Patrick went to before Patrick was playing quarterback. He was playing DB, actually, but Trey McTwire, Oklahoma fans will know him. Freaking incredible wide receiver who unfortunately just had a lot of personal issues and just weird stuff that, you know, after the fact you learn about. Like, he had just a couple of things when he was at Oklahoma that you're like, what the hell, dude? But as a player, I thought he was going to be a superstar. And then Mahomes came right after that. And so that was a fun run of covering White House High School. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Trey McTwire, but Trey Wisner would be in there, probably top 10 somewhere. I've never sat down and really tried to make a list like that. Maybe I'll do that one day, but he's up there. He was so good.
I was on a podcast one time, and somebody asked me the best, like, if I could just list off, and he was one of the ones that I mentioned was Trey Wisner. It was, and then the one I saw that I wasn't broadcasting, I was just in college at the time, but I saw Antonio Cromartie play at Tallahassee Lincoln. Yeah. And like, one of the cool things about doing high school football is when you see a guy who you like absolutely know is going to the NFL if he doesn't get hurt. Yeah. Like, you don't know where, like, you can't predict out where he's going to be drafted, but you're like, no, this guy, college is only going to, like, you know, shoot more superhero power into his veins, because they're going to teach him how to, like, do all these things. Antonio Cromartie, I've never seen a coach more befuddled with, how do we deal with this guy on both sides of the ball? Like, there was just nothing they could do. Yeah. Like, because there was no athlete that could be out there with him.
Those are just the special guys that stand out. And yeah, like you said, you can kind of see those guys early on and go, like, yeah, unless he just finds trouble, that guy should be in the pro. Like, and now that I start thinking about this hypothetical list, like, the first year I did high school football, the first game that I did, Derek Johnson was playing for Waco High. Yeah. And I swear to God, I don't know what the final, and I don't say that even a lot, but I mean it. I don't know what the final box score was, but he had 20-plus tackles in that game, and he had, like, I don't know how many sacks. I mean, it was ridiculous. And you're like, and he was committed to Texas already, and you're just like, yeah, the Texas is getting somebody special, and of course they did. Like, you saw his career after that. Damn, I'm old. Yeah. Damn, he's retired. He's like on Hall of Fame ballots already, and I'm reflecting back on, like, his junior year, but he'd definitely be on that top 5 to 10 list as well.
Yeah. When I first moved here, you know, LaDainian Tomlinson, he was already gone. He was in the NFL already, but he was just like a new part of the NFL. And then, you know, 5 years ago, I went to his 6-7 years ago, I went to his Hall of Fame induction. So time flies. Time flies. All right, I want to talk, Craig, about the coach's hot seat real quick. And look, I know it's really early in the season, and some of this might be like wildly premature, but look, I think if you've entered the year like on an uneven keel in your job, the way it works now because of recruiting and the portal and all that, by the middle of the year, if they've decided that they don't want you anymore, you're going to be gone. I mean, look, we're already 2 games in, and there's certain guys. I'll start with you, and then we'll like ping pong back and forth. So the people I listed, the first one I think is the most obvious one, who needs at least 2 wins in this gauntlet of a schedule they've got coming up to even consider this of coming back. But nothing much has changed over the last year. Billy Napier at Florida. What do you think?
I think it's pretty clear he's on a hot seat, if not the hottest seat in college football. Yeah, I don't think there's any denying that after that loss last week. And yeah, you look ahead, and it's a schedule that we ran down a little bit yesterday, but it's as tough as there is in the entire country, and a streak of just playing ranked team after ranked team after ranked team that even the best coaches on the coolest of seats would not be able to contend with. And I'll run it down again this weekend: at number 3 LSU, the following at number 5 Miami, the following home versus number 7 Texas. So 2 straight top 5 road games followed by a top 10 home game, top 10 home games. So 3 straight top 10 games, make it 4 straight top 16 games, because then they go to Kyle Field. So 3 of their next 4 games are going to Death Valley, then going down to Miami, home against Texas, and then to Kyle Field. So, I mean, that's about as dirty as it gets on the schedule. Home against Mississippi State, which that looks a little different after last weekend. Now that one you go, okay, they should probably win that game. And it's that or Kentucky as far as the actual winnable games, because those are the only 2 for the entire rest of the year as we enter week 3 that aren't ranked right now. So yeah, they'll get Mississippi State, then Georgia, who's 6 at home. So that's 4 top 10 teams in the next 5 weeks. Then Kentucky, as I mentioned, Ole Miss is top 20. That's a road game. Tennessee's top 15. That's a home game. And then Florida State's top 10. That's a home game. So yeah, like, we knew going into last year that he was on thin ice, and then you had DJ Lagway kind of explode, and you're like, okay, well, he's still on thin ice, but at least there's reason to believe that maybe it's not going to be so bad. And then you go and you lose to South Florida, and it's like, nope, here we are. We're right back where we started, and now it's like real deal. Like, we're a year down the road, so it's even closer to crunch time where something's got to give. And I just don't know with that schedule and with their team based on what we've seen. I don't know how like a bowl game's possible. I don't know, man. So yeah, he's an obvious choice at number 1.
Yeah. Okay. One that I think he's gotten a lot of buzz. Like when you look around, and say like, hey, who's on the hot seat? Kalen DeBoer, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that, he would have to have a tragically bad season for them to do that. Part of the reason I think there's buzz around Kalen DeBoer is just because the fans of Alabama have been spoiled for so long. They don't know what normal is anymore.
Yeah, I think it's kind of ridiculous, honestly. Last week last week it was breathing the last rites to Alabama football as we knew it, right? And then they go out and they look as crisp and sharp as anybody in the entire country last week, and you don't hear a peep this week because they looked good. So we'll see. I think, we were talking to Brett McMurphy yesterday and getting a lot of these conversations because Brett's very dialed into the coaching talk and the carousel. And I think, there's definitely things to talk about with a lot of these guys, but I also think in some cases it's way too early to sit there and try to declare a final answer already. And I think with DeBoer, it is way, way too soon. Now, had they turned around and lost last week or looked really poor, then man, I would have been super interested to see what the temperature in the room would have been, but I think it cooled off a bit last week. And I think you just had the insanity of just fans, who are spoiled in Alabama's case. Absolutely. They believe it's their standard, and that's fair, but they are absolutely spoiled. And so it's just unrealistic in a lot of ways what they're wanting out of him. And I think he's got a lot more losses before we really have a serious conversation about that.
Look, Nick Saban retired because the game changed, and he was like, you know what? I've done so much already. Like, I've kind of earned, not if I don't want to put up with this and go be on TV, then I can. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he leaves with unfinished business at Alabama. What was the line from diehard I always think of, and Alexander wept because he had no more worlds to conquer. Like, I think about that all the time. Like, yeah, what else is he going to do? I mean, so this is it just Alabama has to deal with being a normal good team and not necessarily the most dominant team. And they don't know, they feel that that's awful. Brent Pry, Virginia Tech, they're just like dry white toast as a program right now. And I really think that Shane Beamer beating them in week 1 with one of the best quarterbacks in the country has got that's just the one guy, because his dad is your most legendary coach that if you are Brent Pry, you don't want to lose to, because kind of like Louisville and Jeff Brom, like Shane Beamer is probably going to be that guy that they're like, well, we need to get Shane Beamer here. Like they could list 100 other coaches and like, yeah, but we'd really want Frank Beamer's kid. I
mean, they can want all they want to. I have no idea why he'd want to do that.
Well, he's not gonna. But that's the thing. But that's gonna follow him. Like that's gonna be the thing that follows him around.
Well, I can follow him, but that's not his problem. That's Virginia Tech's problem. Yeah, exactly. And I think that the loss to Vanderbilt was super embarrassing. When the final whistle had blown, it wasn't just a loss. Like you got embarrassed by the end of that game, and it's scary to think that Vatek, with all due respect to Vanderbilt's come up, which they deserve credit for, but the fact that you're sitting there getting skunked by Vanderbilt, even if it's a much improved, different Vanderbilt, it's still just not good on the eyes. And based on a very middle of the road record last year and just a very middle of the road to bad tenure and now embarrassing losses when you're already on a hot seat. I remember when Virginia Tech football mattered, and it doesn't feel like it's mattered for a really long time. I remember when it used to be a big deal to hear Enter Sandman, and I don't remember the last time they were even a game big enough for the crowd to even focus on that or the cameras to focus on that. Like, there's no juice to them whatsoever right now. And I've followed Kyron Drones, followed his career. He's been fine, but much like the entire program, just very middle of the road, average at best. And it's just, it's a program that if you're, 15 to 20 years old, like, do you think Virginia Tech's a big deal at all?
No.
Then, like, that's one of those programs that I'm just old, where I remember when they were amongst the best of the best. They were never a national champion, but they were in the mix to like spoil a national championship run or to upend one or to, compete obviously for a league title. But it was also they weren't competing for playoff spots and stuff back then when they were really rolling as hot as they could. So I remember when make Virginia Tech great again is what they need to do, because they used to matter a lot more and they don't matter much right now.
Yeah. Look, the greatest day of my young life in January 2nd, 2000, I was watching Virginia Tech and Michael Vick playing a national championship game that they were leading going into the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Before Peter Warwick said, that's it, we're going to end this.
That was the peak right there, baby.
Yeah, that was right there. Yeah.
They were competing. They were right in the mix, and that was their biggest shot and fell short. But that was as a special run of there in the late 90s, early 2000s for Virginia Tech. Watching them and Michael Vick in particular was just incredible.
Yeah, and we got to go to Sam Khan here in a second. We're going to take a break, but here's what I remember about the third quarter of that game. It's about when my buzz stopped, which is when Michael Vick took over the game. And I remember like standing in line for the bathroom between the third and fourth quarters, like thinking, crap. Crap. And then, of course, like the magic happened, but it was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. Sam Khan, who will be in the grocery pickup line at HEB during this segment. So I can't wait to hear the guy be like, Sam, all right, here's your pickles or whatever. Here in a second. Sam Khan of The Athletic is next. This is 365 Sports.
Baylor football against Sanford on Saturday morning. And, of course, the Baylor alumni tailgate will be rolling from the tent they have it near Touchdown Alley at McLean Stadium, just over the pedestrian bridge on the Brazos River. They do a great job 2 hours prior to kickoff, and they have all sorts of special guests that come by. Great food, about fellowship, family, fun. Everyone's invited. Alumni, parents, rally together as you get ready for Baylor and Sanford on Saturday morning. And then, by the way, the following Saturday, Arizona State, the defending Big 12 champions, in town, and they will have their home tailgate bash. An epic game day experience with green and gold giveaways, delicious meal catered by Milo while supplies last. Alumni tailgate show 2 hours prior to kickoff. Doug Furch, Paul Thorpe. Baylor alumni tailgate Saturday against Samford. Next Saturday evening against Arizona State. Just on the pedestrian bridge side of McLean Stadium off the Brazos River.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Right now at Berg Collision Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Sam Kahn of The Athletic joins us now. Sam, have you received your grocery delivery yet?
Yes. Thank goodness. HEB is very quick and efficient. They let me know it was done ready about 30 minutes ago, so I left early and I got it right before I got on air because the whole thing I was anticipating was being in the middle of answering a question and then having somebody come knock on the window and be like, hey, do you want me to put them in the back? So we avoided that, and I am on the way back home.
Well, I was hoping that we got to hear that personally, but yeah, no, Sam, we are 2 full weeks in, I guess 3 if you count week 0 to the season. Is it too early, or given the way that coaching hiring cycles go, to talk about who's legitimately in the hot seat and not?
I think in most cases it's too early, but when you come into the season with a certain narrative, I think the early season results always throw a few more logs onto the fire. And Billy Napier suffered from this last year. I remember, I think after they lost to Texas A&M, there was a lot of hoopla and a lot of consternation about whether or not he would get canned. And then they finished the season pretty strong. I know, Craig, I heard you read off the schedule. I can't say I'm very confident that it's going to repeat history at Florida because that's a really difficult schedule. But who knows? You never know with this type of stuff how quick things can change. Heck, halfway through the season last year, if you'd asked me 6 games in, I didn't think Dave Aranda would be the coach at Baylor in 2025. And then they ripped off 6 straight wins and changed the narrative quite a bit. So, yeah, I think it's a little early in most cases. I think that the times where I think it is just is when you already come into the season with that. I think back to Ed Orgeron or Les Miles in years past when they came into the season already kind of on the hot seat, and then they lost early season games. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, this is just anecdotal, but I do feel like we're starting to get away from the super early September or early October firings. It seems like programs are waiting a little bit longer and taking a little bit more to evaluate these situations. One, because it's a lot of money there on the hook for to buy them out, but two, you also have to retain your players. And I think that's one of the reasons why Napier was able to stay is that DJ Lagway is like, this is my guy. And if you want to keep me, you got to keep him. And I think the players having some leverage in that way buys the coaches some time in some of these situations.
Sam, Texas A&M going to South Bend to take on the Irish, who we last saw in week 1 falling to Miami. But right there inside the top 10, A&M right outside the top 15. Do you see an Aggies upset in Indiana this weekend? And what really, I guess, stands out to you about this matchup in particular?
I think it's very possible. I think A&M really is in a good spot here. I love what I've seen offensively from them. They really upgraded the receiver room, which I thought was their biggest albatross last year. When they played elite competition, particularly Notre Dame or Texas, they could not get receivers open. And now you've got Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, and Terry Bussey is starting to come into his own as a sophomore now. And so they really got some dynamic options on the outside. I think Marcel Reed's improved as a passer. So you like all those things. I think the two things I would say that I'm going to really watch closely here are how well does Texas A&M stop the run, because Notre Dame can run the ball with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And so early in that UTSA game, Texas A&M gave up more than 100 yards rushing in the first half, and then they gave up a 75-yard run to start the second half. They looked pretty leaky. And then ever since after that Robert Henry run to start the second half of the first game, A&M's kind of buckled it up. They were pretty good last week against Utah State. They were pretty good in the rest of the UTSA game. So I'm curious to see what the run defense looks like, because if it's bad, then Notre Dame can control this game and keep CJ Carr out of unfavorable situations. The other thing I'm curious is how well do they protect him? I thought Notre Dame's offensive line really had its hands full against Miami. We all saw how that game ended with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor just tearing those guys up on the outside. If they are not better, particularly in pass protection, then A&M is going to be all over CJ Carr, and I think that works in their favor. I have picked. We had to make a pick for this one. I picked A&M to upset. I just kind of like the momentum that I see with this program, but Notre Dame's a really good program. It's the home game, so it's going to be a tough atmosphere. And by the way, A&M has not won a night road game since 2020. It's a streak that goes back. They've lost 7 road night games in a row.
They also haven't beaten a ranked non-conference opponent since 1979. So
that's crazy, Sam. He said that earlier, and I was like, how is that even possible?
Is that really true? Wait, a ranked non-conference road opponent? Is that true?
Yep. Penn State in 1979.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. That was before, look, I'm 45. That was a year before I was born. I feel like as I get older, most things didn't happen before I was born now. But, and the thing about A&M is they're like classically unlucky in situations like this. They just they'll play really well, except for the 2 things that beat them in a close game, like the inexplicable things. And it is like they're some sort of cursed, but this is, with all the weapons that they have on offense, Marcel Reed looks like a much improved quarterback. If their defense can just shore it up a little bit, this one should come down to the end, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. And remember, this is a Notre Dame team with a really young quarterback who, by the way, I think is very talented. I was really impressed with what I saw from CJ Carr. I didn't love how Mike Denbrock called that game. I thought they got away from the run game way too much. And that's where I think Notre Dame can get itself into trouble. And a lot of that, too, is it's not just the play calls. It's a lot of RPO stuff, and it's trusting CJ Carr to make that decision whether to pull or throw. And I think he made the decision a lot of times to pull it and throw it rather than hand it off. And I think that you want to give that confidence to your quarterback. You want to trust your young guy and show him that you have belief in him. But at the same time, you got to feed your best players, and their running backs are their best offensive weapons. So I'll be curious to see. But yeah, I think the fact that you have a young inexperienced quarterback. I think it's something that Mike Oko, as a veteran defensive coordinator who's been in this a long time, I think that's something he probably looked at as a prime opportunity for his group.
Yeah, Marcel Reed's been really good through a couple. He's got an opportunity this weekend to make a lot of noise for himself and the Aggies. So that's definitely one of the bangers, if not the top game this weekend. One that's lost a little bit of its luster because one team lost its ranking. Arizona State, fresh off that Mississippi State loss, hosting Texas State. Now, they played last year, and we didn't know at the time that Arizona State was about to go on this Big 12 title run. They were just a new team in the Big 12, basically, and Texas State gave them all they could handle. Texas State winning a hell of a game last weekend against a rival UTSA. How on upset alert do you feel like the Sun Devils should be here, or do you maybe see it going a little bit differently? Like, where are you on this one that's maybe not on a lot of people's radars, but is certainly on mine?
Yeah, this one was a lot more competitive last year. Of course, they were in San Marcos, and I thought Texas State acquitted itself pretty well. Obviously, a lot of changes, and Brad Jackson, certainly been impressed with him so far. I think he's been everything that people said they were, and San Marcos said he was going to be. And DJ Kinney and his staff, I think, do a really good job of restocking that roster year in, year out. Not easy to live that way, especially the G5 level, but I think they've overall done a good job of it. I still think this is a game that I feel pretty comfortable with Arizona State. I know they lost last week on the road. That's a game I thought that they had a chance to win, and they came back late, and then of course they have the big coverage bust late, and let that deep ball go that Mississippi State ends up getting the win on. But I still think this is one of the better teams in the country. I still think it's one of the better teams in the Big 12. I love the way they can run the ball. I think they found some things there. So I still think I like Arizona State comfortably in this game. I think going back home, I think Kenny Dillingham will get them woken up and they'll bounce back and be resilient. But I think Texas State's going to be competitive. I mean, this is a good team. I think this is a team that's going to be reckoned with in the Sun Belt. So wouldn't shock me if they're in shouting distance in the second half. But I think Arizona State for me is still, I think, a really good team that I think is going to take care of business here.
One of the most intriguing games of the week, Sam, is Clemson and Georgia Tech. It's in Atlanta. Clemson just hasn't looked like world beaters to their first two games. They could still wind up being really good, but they just don't look scary right now. And Georgia Tech has kind of made their bones under Brent Key of winning games like this, especially at home. What do you think's going to go down in Atlanta on Saturday?
I mean, here's the thing. As long as Kate Klubnik is not playing at a high level, I think Clemson's in trouble because they have not run the ball consistently. I don't think they have been as treacherous on defensive line. They haven't been as dominant on the defensive line as you would expect. Because I thought they coming into the year, I thought they had one of the best defensive lines in the country. I don't think they've quite played up to that potential this yet. They've got a lot to clean up, and you going up against a Georgia Tech team that I think very much plays to the identity of its head coach. Very hard nosed, very physical. They strain. They play really hard. They're going to make some mistakes. I know we saw in the opener there's a lot of turnovers early against Colorado, but they're not gonna lose for lack of effort. And when you get a talented backfield like they have, a talented quarterback like they have, I really do. I think this is a really good spot for Georgia Tech, and this is a must win for Clemson because I think if you don't win this game, you really risk the season kind of going off the rails. And I know they ended up coming back to beat Troy last week, but the way they started that game, the way they looked in the second half against LSU, for a team that's supposed to be a national title contender, they've been really underwhelming, and this is a spot that I think is a must win for them. But Georgia Tech, to me, if you made me pick this one, I really like the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to. It's a fun game, man, to wait on because this could be throwing some dirt. There's a couple teams, like, if they're not careful, you can basically just throw dirt on their college football chances this weekend. Like Notre Dame, if they lose to A&M, that's it, pal. You can't keep an 0-2 team in the rankings, right? So, yeah, very, very interesting game coming up there. Colorado and Houston tomorrow night. You know the Cougs well. Everybody knows Dion and the Buffs. They're still figuring out their quarterback situation, which leads many, along with just the way Colorado has looked, to thinking that Houston's got a great crack here, and I think they do as well. But what's your prediction on this game, Sam? How competitive, and do you see Houston maybe pulling off what would for them be a massive win for Willie Fritz and company.
Yeah, certainly a big opportunity for Houston. They haven't been favored in very many Big 12 games. I think only once so far in the 2 years in the Big 12 conference game they've been favored. So this is a real chance for them. But I think they've been okay for the first couple of weeks. A little disjointed offensively at times. I think defensively they kind of picked up where they left off. Been really, really good on that side of the ball. I think I want to see some cleaner play from Connor Wegman and company. I really like the couple transfers they got. Tanner Koziel, the tight end, has been terrific. Dean Connors, the running back, has been, I think, what it was advertised. Colorado, I think we're still trying to figure out to some degree, too. If you'd have told me within a couple of weeks that they'd be playing Ryan Staub at quarterback, I would have told you that Caden Salter and Juju Lewis got hurt. And I don't think they are. And so the fact that Dion is willing to go that route, and it seems like since he was taking the first team reps early this week, I would assume that's who's going to start. It makes it a really fascinating matchup because you don't really know what to make of Colorado at that point. I do think they still have a lot of talent. Obviously, they're not have as much top end talent as they did last year, but I still think they're a good, solid, competitive team. So this is one that I'm very much looking forward to figuring out who these two teams are tomorrow.
You wrote about Malachi Nelson at UTEP. They play Texas this weekend. He's had a really interesting journey, from being the top-rated player in the country to being at now his third school. What did you find out about Malachi Nelson that would surprise most people when they just try to paint him with the brush of this is a guy who's never happy with what school he's in?
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to talk to him and dive into this story, is because I only knew him from afar. Obviously, I live down here in Texas. I wasn't around California recruiting. I didn't get to see him as a recruit very much. And so just like everybody else, I'm thinking, wow, there's this 5-star who flamed out at USC and flamed out at Boise State, now he's at UTEP. And what I found is that there's a lot of layers to this. For one, at USC, he had a shoulder injury that he had to get operated on right after he arrived on campus. So he really wasn't physically ready. And then when the end of that season came, I think he thought he was ready to play, but the opportunity wasn't really there. Miller Moss was still there. Lincoln Riley was shopping in the portal for a quarterback. He wanted to go somewhere to play, and so he went to Boise State. And then, of course, we all know Maddox Matson beat him out for a job. The interesting thing is that one of the reasons he went to Boise State was to follow Bush Hamden, the offensive coordinator who was there at the time. He's now the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. Bush is the guy who recruited him back in 8th grade, and they had a long-term relationship. And so he went and trusted Bush, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go play for you. And Bush, signed him. And then about a month later, Kentucky hooked the offensive coordinator job, and Bush Hamden left. And so, of course, Dirk Cutter took over as the OC. So things kind of changed up on him a little bit. But after he lost that job, I talked to Spencer Danielson, the head coach at Boise State, and Spencer told me that Malachi was a model teammate. After he lost the job, it was tough. It was difficult, but he was ready. He held Maddox Matson, supported him. Malachi told me him and Maddox Matson still talk pretty regularly. He loves Boise. He didn't want to necessarily leave the place. He really liked that place, but he wanted to play. And so when they went into the portal, they looked for an opportunity to play. And UTEP and Marshall, I think, were the two top choices he ended up having. He ended up turning down more money and opportunity at Marshall to go to UTEP and ended up winning the job. And I talked to Jordan Palmer, who works with a lot of quarterbacks, worked with Malachi, and he told me, he said, hey, this is a really emotionally mature guy who is really talented. He just needs an opportunity. And he finally got one. I thought he played really well last week against UT Martin. He was a little rusty in the first game when they lost Utah State, but last week I thought he looked really sharp and started coming to his own. And I'm excited and enticed to see what he looks like against a really, really good defense, one of the best defenses in the country. Certainly he's going to be a little bit overmatched in terms of the talent that he has on his side versus what Texas has. But I'm really intrigued because he is a really natural thrower of the ball, and I think he's got a chance if he can stick with it, and if they can continue to give him that support and he continues to make plays, I think he's got a chance to still make something of his career. And so I think he's a fascinating guy who is not anything like I expected. When I talked to him, he's not a kid who you would think is like, well, this 5-star kid with an attitude. No, I thought he was a pretty mature kid who I think has the right things in mind. It's just he's been looking for an opportunity. He finally got one.
Yeah, this is I think this isn't a Jaden Rashada like type thing. It's different. And there's, it's funny, Sam, there's just nuance to every story when it comes to players like this, right? It's there's depth and there's reasons why, and there's more luck involved or timing than I think a lot of people do realize.
No doubt. And one of the interesting things about this too, when I talked to him, is that because he left USC, and where he was playing for Lincoln Riley, the thought was, hey, he was going to go be Caleb Williams' successor. That was his hope, but it just didn't look like it was going to work out that way. But he still talks to Lincoln Riley. He actually told me before he committed to UTEP, when he was trying to decide what to do, he called Lincoln and he asked Lincoln for his thoughts. And Lincoln talked to him for a while and told him what he thought about the situations and what he thought Malachi should do. And he told Malachi that, hey, I think you should go where you feel most comfortable and where you feel wanted. And that's part of the reason why he ended up at UTEP, because he felt like Scotty Weldon and UTEP had the best plan for him and wanted him the most. But it's interesting. He still talks to Spencer Danielson at Boise State. I found it fascinating. Like that's something that's interesting in the transfer portal world, is I think, back in the day when somebody would transfer or you would lose a recruit, there would be a lot of emotion involved. And I think there still is, but these relationships, I think, they still maintain, because coaches know that they may need a player down the road. Maybe if you miss them the first time, maybe you may need them the second time. Or I think the players are realizing, hey, these guys are resources for us. Just because I left there or it didn't work out there, these people still mean something to me, and they were still part of my life. And so I found that interesting that Malachi still talks to a lot of the people at all those places, and particularly the head coaches. When you would think, hey, maybe the breakup was bad, it wasn't bad in any case. I think in both cases it was a pretty amicable split from USC and from Boise State, and it looks like he's finally thriving at UTEP.
Sam Kahn of The Athletic. Sam, go put your groceries away.
Thanks, man. Have a good one. Talk to you next week.
All right. Sam Kahn of The Athletic with us on every single Thursday.
Yeah, always nice to talk to Sam about just whatever's going on, and hopefully his milk isn't spoiled from us taking up all his time. But no, it's fun to talk about the games. Been living in that sort of thought the last 3 weeks because you spend all the rest of the year talking about the games. And now it's like we're finally talking about it. It's just great. But I also realized I'm an idiot, and you guys already knew that anyways. But I've sat there and said, oh, Notre Dame lose this weekend, they're pretty much out of it. And then I realized, no, they're not. No, they're not. It's a 12-team playoff. They'd be 0-2 against two top 15-ish type of teams. So they technically wouldn't be out of it all the way. They could be 0-2. Now, would they actually fall from 8 out of the top 25? Like at 0-2, you would think so, but I have to sit there and actually wonder about that because it is the polls after all. So I'd be very curious to see how they're viewed. Now, clearly it would depend on how the game goes. Do you lose to A&M by 1 at the end on a field goal, or do you lose by 17, which is highly unlikely? That would play into it. But yeah, they're at 8. They could be very well 0-2. I'm leaning in their direction, although there's a lot to like about A&M right now, especially with Marcel Reed seemingly having taken a step as a passer and just a guy who's a bit more well-rounded and comfortable, and now with a lot of weapons around him. But yeah, that A&M Notre Dame game ought to be great. Nighttime on NBC. But Notre Dame could lose that game, and I say that, and then they don't play another ranked team on paper right now the rest of the way. Mm-hmm. So they'll be favored in the next 10. So they could finish 10-2, having started 0-2, and those 2 losses beat a top 20 teams, and then go like, all right, we're back in the playoff again. Like, why would they ever join a conference? We've had this conversation, and so have plenty of others dozens of times, but especially right now when you are so unique that you don't have to play in a conference that, you can lose a couple games, and it's fine. You're still in the playoff.
All they have to do is finish 12th.
All they got to
do is finish 12th.
Yeah.
And if they go 10-2 or 9-3, they've got a good shot at
Buddy,
that.
They got Purdue, dub, at Arkansas. I mean, Taylor Green's playing well, but I want to see Taylor Green against much better competition before I get too crazy and start hyping him up for awards and whatnot. But he's had a pretty electric first couple of games. Let's see as they get into SEC play. But, I mean, that could be interesting in Fayetteville. Boise State looks a lot less of a Boise State threat than they have for most years here recently. NC State's at home. USC's at home. At Boston College. Navy at home. At Pitt. That one could be kind of interesting. Syracuse at home. Syracuse is down. At Stanford. I mean, they're down and have been down for forever. So, I mean, maybe a Pitt on the road jumps up and bites them, or maybe it's A&M this weekend. But beyond this A&M game, I guess that trip to Fayetteville would be the next one here in a couple weeks where you're going, all right, maybe there's a third loss you think would, even for Notre Dame, would be too much to overcome, especially if it's all in the first month. But they're in that spot with this expanded playoff where it's going to be hard, like a Texas or teams like that. In Alabama, even though we just saw it last year, it was not without immense hand-wringing and we've got to change the format because Alabama didn't make it.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to picture too many scenarios where a Texas or a Notre Dame, and I would have said in Alabama until last year, but those teams just feel like they're going to always be pretty insulated to make it pretty much every season.
I think the shock about some of those teams, like Texas is probably still going to be good. They may not be as explosive as we thought they could be, but they're still probably going to win most of their games, right? Like that's the thing. Like, oh, they're going to be 10-2 or 11-1. And instead of beating people 45-10, they're going to beat people 31-16, but still handily in most cases. And if you look back, that Notre Dame Miami game was probably the best game of the weekend when it came to just kind of a prize fight.
For sure.
And, it comes down to, one bad Notre Dame turnover, a miraculous catch by a guy who Garrett knows well couldn't catch a cold, at LSU, and then I think the three things that got, and then a period of the game where nobody was scoring, where Notre Dame, and Sean McDonough put it perfectly when he finally got a carry, he said Jeremiah Love out of witness protection, because there was this stretch of the game where Mike Denbrock didn't give the ball to his best player for 14, 15 plays in a row. And everyone's like, is he hurt or anything? No, they were trying something different. And then they didn't score points in that stretch.
Then it was late third quarter. I think some calls started going against them. That's when you felt like, all right, here come the officials to make this thing tight. And it got tight, but I'm not trying to throw dirt on Notre Dame either. No. Just a very real possibility that they go 0-2 to start the season. And they were 0-1, and it's a game that very easily could have been theirs. And maybe this one is as well. So you can be 0-2 and still very well make the playoff. And you could very well be deserving. So I'm not going to say they're not deserving, because if your two losses are tight games to top 15 teams at the start of the season, one of them's on the road, then you still have a pretty salty resume. But there's a couple maybe other blips, but this weekend, if they get past the Aggies at home, then I think you feel really good about the rest of the way. But if you stumble and all of a sudden you're an 0-2 hole, then it really gets interesting, because now you feel like you don't have any room for error, even if you have that gold helmet on. Then you're playing with that third loss, and that's playing with fire even in a 12-team playoff for a Notre Dame.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, John Kurtz, what's going on with K-State? How can they fix the issues that they've had through the first 3 weeks of the season? This is 365 Sports.
Baylor football home game on Saturday morning against Sanford at McLean Stadium. Have you put together what you need for your tailgate or what you're going to eat throughout the weekend? Right now at Waco Custom Marketplace, a fantastic place for you to load up for any kind of tailgate or what you want to eat anytime. They have what you need when it comes to St. Louis-style pork ribs, spare ribs, chicken tenders, bacon-wrapped pork tenderloins, boudin. Man, I love boudin. Also, baby back ribs and select choice and prime New York strip steaks from $11.75 a pound to $20.50 a pound. Also, 20% off on all Boar's Head lunch meat. They have charcoal, pellet fuel, marinades, and seasonings, tri-tip and brisket. What you need for a tailgate, you always find it at where the Bauer family has excelled for years and decades of feeding product to the restaurants so they can then have the great food for you and tailgating. That's where you get what you need, including cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels in Waco, your Central Texas commercial headquarters. Get a new Ram 2500 Crew Cab starting at just $43,990. Don't miss the savings during the Make This the Summer event. Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Our good friend John Kurtz, who the purple light behind him shines a little dimmer for the first 3 weeks of the season because it's been tough for the Wildcats so far. John, is there I never thought I would say this. Sometimes it's not the coach's fault; it's just how things go. But I never thought I would say this about a Chris Kleiman team. Is there maybe a locker room issue, a culture problem with this team right now that they're not confident and together like most Chris Kleiman teams have been?
Yeah, well, appreciate you having me on. Yeah, you can see the light says Cats by 90. I think these days it's more like Cats minus 90 or by negative 90. I don't know. However, minus 90 might sound good. Anyway, yeah, I mean, they've got a real toughness problem is frankly what it feels like to me. And I think some of this is a reflection of how much different it is now with NIL in particular, but also the portal and the dynamics of the sport than it was even in 2022 when Kleiman won a Big 12 championship. Like, I think what you saw happen is they won the Big 12 title, and then there was this big crop of local recruits that they were chasing that were really highly coveted, Avery Johnson being the crown jewel of that. But Dylan Edwards, Lincoln Cure, who's on the roster now, a 5-star tight end that they got. Jordan Allen was a pretty highly sought-after defensive end that they have. Just a lot more talent that they added to the roster. Like, they were successful in a lot of these endeavors and getting the guys on the team. But it almost feels to me like there's a bit of, hey, these guys were so tough to get and we're worried about the possibility of them transferring and leaving because it was such a hotly contested recruitment for all of these guys. that maybe they're not coaching them like as hard as they would have before. I mean, that's just sort of a vibe that I pick up. And some of that is because I feel like these press conferences that Chris Kleiman's been having have been a little more guarded against saying anything very negative. You know, I mean, he went up to the podium after the Army game and was kind of like, still proud of the team, you know, outlined, hey, they had the sort of fluky squib kick, onside kick thing, and our kick return didn't help. And I mean, I think he's generally right about all that. That was a little bit of a fluky game. But when your body of work is what it's been so far, you've kind of lost any room to go that route. And it feels like they just refuse to really try and instill much toughness in the team and the culture. And I think you also just had a lot of guys from the team a couple of years ago when they won the Big 12 that have slowly trickled out that were the real alphas, you know, guys that are alpha personalities. This team doesn't have a lot of that. You know, I think of like a Ben Sinnott, Felix Anyudike-Uzama, Deuce Vaughn, Will Howard even, you know, I mean, sometimes I think fans were rubbed the wrong way by, he could be a little whiny at times in post-game press conferences, but I think like on the field, he's a pretty tough dude. And he went through a lot of tough criticism throughout his career and came out on the other side a lot stronger for it. So he had his flaws. He was really turnover prone in 23. But he, I think, was still more of like an alpha personality. And look, Avery Johnson's a really talented player. A lot of times I think teams take on the personality of their quarterback and their head coach. And Kleiman's definitely more of a, you know, leaning into being a coach or a player friendly coach. But Avery Johnson's just like, he's pretty laid back. You know, he's not. Sam Leavitt did not play very well at Mississippi State, but I also saw Sam Leavitt go completely full Superman, throwing his body out there for a first down, attempting to get one on fourth down at one point. Like, you don't really see anything like that from Avery Johnson, you know, and Dylan Edwards hasn't even been out there outside of one snap so far yet this year. And Lincoln Cures had, I think, some, you know, minor injury issues and hasn't fought his way onto the field yet. And it's just like, it just feels like there's this tone with this team where none of that has really come together, and they need a little bit more grit. They need some more toughness. They need guys who are going to be alpha personalities and say, hey, I'm going to go make a play when we absolutely have to have it. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to call out specific guys. Austin Romaine, I think, is by far the best defender that they have at linebacker, but he had a chance on a critical fourth down before Army took the lead for good in that game on Saturday. I mean, they had to get this stop. He shoots free on 4th and 4, has a free shot at the backup quarterback of Army, takes kind of a bad angle, gets juked out, kid gets the first down, they score a touchdown, the game's over. Like, they don't have anybody that's stepping up and making those plays and like saying, I'm refusing to let this happen on my watch right now. And even I'm not on the beat like I was through 21, where I'm like at every press conference and talking to the players a lot. So some of this is just relaying what I hear from guys who are doing that now, but it just sounds like there's not even a lot of that frustration, anger stuff coming from players in press conferences. So I just don't know if they have enough of that like attitude in them right now.
So during the offseason, everybody was making their picks, and K-State was just one of those like, oh, yeah, they're going to be great. Everybody just threw them into the Big 12 title game and just assumed. And I recall, I think, listening to you, just your regular shows or maybe it's 3 Mall, where you were a little bit more down on them than most people were, just chalking up that they're going to be in the title game. Is this still surprising to you where they are, though, given that you had to have some level of expectation that with what they had back, they'd be pretty good? So, like, I guess my question is, you weren't as high on them as some, but how surprising is this still where they find themselves now?
Yeah, I took a lot of grief for picking them 9-3. You know, I mean, frankly, just where the fan base was at with the expectation level and where they'd been at. I was surprised when I saw that Brett McMurphy did the poll where he took a poll of the coaches at Big 12 Media Days, and they picked K-State to win the league. And then the Gambling Gauchos did the sort of unofficial media poll, and K-State was the pick. I was surprised because to me, it was like, look, I didn't think it would be this severe, but a lot of the same things that I'm talking about, I saw a little bit of that. And some of it more with Avery at the time was just like, he's just so inconsistent with his actual play on the field. Like, I need to see more consistency in the passing game and or see him become, as weird as this sounds, a better runner of the football. He's very fast, but I think his feel for when to go, when to scramble, when to keep it, and we're kind of back to like toughness, like lower your head as a runner. He just avoids contact a lot. And I saw a lot of those things last year, and I was like, until I see him be the guy that's going to go make the crucial play in every game. Not that he never did it. Threw a huge pass to Jace Brown last year in the Colorado game in a clutch moment to win. Like he has done it, but not consistently. And so until I saw that, I was like, I'm going to side with like Sam Levitt and Sawyer Robertson on this one. That was my Big 12 championship game pick before the year. So I think the problems are just more amplified than what I imagined that they would be. Plus, I just figured, I mean, they have enough talent that they should be able to overcome some of that anyway. And I think some of it is a little bit more amplified because of circumstance. Now, what annoys me to no end is that it feels like they have made, Chris Kleiman in particular, a lot of these issues. To me, it comes across as a little bit of making excuses. And at a certain point, I'm just like, just go win a game, man. Stop telling me that it's going to be hot in Arizona and that you're tired and it's a short week and, you know, the defense was on the field 27 minutes the second half against Army. I get it, dude, but this is not Murderer's Row. Like, this is not Georgia, LSU, and Alabama that you're playing, okay? Go win a game. And so that's what's been frustrating. But there is this, you know, I'd be very interested to know what happens if Dylan Edwards just doesn't get hurt the first time he touches the ball. They greatly miss his explosiveness in the running game. The rest of that running back room is decidedly average. It's a little bit worse than I thought it would be. And if they just had his explosive ability there, I mean, they were close enough against Iowa State already. I kind of wonder what happens in that game. I do think they would have beaten Army. They probably beat North Dakota more soundly. Like, that could have masked at least some of those problems. It was, I think, a bad move to go play the game in Ireland. In retrospect, I'm not saying that I was screaming it from the mountaintop before the game, but I think in hindsight, that didn't work out very well. I think they planned poorly for it. They practiced less in the spring. To opting in favor of more strength training and workouts was Kleiman's strategy with that game. I don't know. Whatever they did there, it doesn't seem to have worked very well. And then they came back and had to play a service academy the second week after that, which some people would tell you is the week that the fatigue really catches up to you from Ireland. I don't know how true all that is, but it's, you know, it was a tricky schedule. And now you got a short week to go play a conference game on the road in a bunch of heat. Like, yeah, there are some things here that are not exactly ideal. And I think if you had to do it again, you'd probably go tweak some of that. It wouldn't look quite this bad. You know, the problem is stuff starts to snowball, right? And if you don't have alphas in your locker room who are going to put their foot down and say, well, no more of this, guys, we got to just shut up and start winning games, then it can snowball. And now if you go lose this game, you're 1-3, you're at the 4-game mark of the season, right? And we all understand how important that is with the red shirt rule and guys being able to transfer. So now you're running into some trouble there. I should mention too, George Fitzpatrick, they were raving about, was going to be their starting left tackle, transfer from Ohio State. He had a really bad heat-related incident at a summer workout, very close to the start of practice and fall camp. And it now looks like he may not play this year, when I think initially they were hoping to get him back like in October. So they've had some bad luck. You know, Dylan Edwards got hurt. They've had some bad luck too. Stuff is just compounded and just feels like there's nobody there to stop it all. So I just worry about how far the bottom could fall out of this, because your floor, I think, is always much lower in these type of scenarios now in the modern game of college football, because of players being able to leave, shut it down, transfer. It just, there's less buy-in, I think, when things start to go wrong with teams like this.
You mentioned earlier that maybe they're not as hard on the big-time recruits that they got as they maybe were on some other guys trying to get more out of them. Is that because they have to live in a little bit of fear of the transfer portal and everything that goes with it, that they're maybe not even actively, but in the back of their mind just thinking like, all right, look, you know, maybe we should push Avery Johnson a little harder to be a leader, or maybe we need to push Dylan Edwards a little bit more, but they don't, because they're like, well, you know, we still feel lucky to even have them on the roster.
Yeah, it's my speculation, but that is my speculation that there is some of that at play right now for a coach in Chris Kleiman and a staff that is already inclined to be very player friendly in the first place, which was perfect when Chris Kleiman was hired, because Bill Snyder 2.0, the end version of him, had skewed too far the other way, where it's, hey, not enough talent. There's way too much. He was just not striking the right tone at that point, and you needed to swing the other way, and it worked great. And now it just feels to me like it has swung too far the other way. I think some of it could be the coaching staff just being a little bit stale. They have not had a lot of turnover, but the turnover that they did have, I do think this is worth mentioning, this past offseason is, so Connor Riley, who last year was the offensive coordinator, but had been the offensive line coach every single year of the Chris Kleiman era, he was the one guy on staff that had a reputation for, he's going to chew you out. Like, he's kind of what you think of as like an old school offensive line coach. He will have choice words for you. He's not going to be afraid to rip somebody a new one when something is going wrong. And fans were not happy with him as the offensive coordinator, but he left. And now this offensive line has been kind of a mess this year. And it feels like there's not enough toughness on the team. And you wonder if it hurt to lose the one guy on staff who really had that as a part of his personality. The other thing is, right before they won the Big 12 championship, 2020, after K-State has a 4-win season that did not go well, they went out and got Tremaine Carroll as their strength coach, who was excellent. And Chris Kleiman credited a lot of the culture change and upgrade in athleticism on the roster to things he did. He left late this offseason to go to USC. And you wonder about that. Did that have something to do with what's going on here? I mean, could it have had that drastic of an impact in just a couple of months? I don't know, but it does feel like they lost a couple of the guys who are a little bit more of guys that brought some edge to them on the staff, and maybe that's contributed. So I think what's likely happened here is a lot of things coalescing together. Like, everybody always wants a scapegoat or like a very quick fix answer, like point to one thing. In reality, I think it's a lot of these things that have just piled up that I've mentioned together. And unfortunately, it's really rolled downhill in the wrong direction for the program right now.
So I want to revisit what you said about Avery Johnson, because I feel like if there was a scapegoat that people were trying to put out there, it's like, oh, well, they're not running Avery Johnson enough. Like, if there was one, it would be that one. But you're saying, and I think it's clear if you're watching as well, that like some of that's on Avery, but want to blame Kleiman for not calling plays for Avery to run, I guess. So how much do you put on the coaching staff when it comes to that aspect of opening up the offense more, knowing that the player also has a say in that as well?
Yeah, I think it's all the way around, because I have some frustration with it too, right? Chris Kleiman made a point to say in his press conference fairly recently, I'm paraphrasing here, so I want to try and be as fair as I can, but alluded to the fact that, like, hey, we're trying to keep Avery healthy and upright for an entire season, so we can't just go run him like crazy guys. And it felt like they did some of that last year, and they're probably a little scared about the fact that, remember the Colorado game last year, he missed a series. He went down after throwing a pass where he was kind of like clutching his ribs, but he had an injury that I think initially came from taking a hit in that game. And then the rest of the year last year, I don't think he was quite himself after that. So he did play a little bit banged up. I think that's probably in the back of their minds. And look, I do get it. Like, you have to manage that to some point. He's not going to be Colin Klein. Like, not everybody can be Colin Klein and handle the workload that he did just because of his size and toughness. Like, he was a different kind of cat. And Colin Klein got banged up by the end of the year, and I think that really hurt them in the Baylor game. However, I do think it feels to me like they've coached a little bit of this into him. Like, I wonder how they coach him during practice to try and avoid contact. Because if you go back and watch him in 2023, when he was playing sparingly and just running the football essentially in relief of Will Howard, or just interspersed with Will Howard, I mean, it looked like he was running a lot harder and just freer and not thinking. The Texas Tech game where he had 5 touchdowns. I mean, I'd have to go back and it's been a minute since I've rewatched it, but it felt a little bit more like QB power-ish type of stuff. You don't see any of that anymore with him. And he would just go take it, make one decision, hit a hole, and just hit it hard. Like, he has not busted out a huge long touchdown run his entire career. These 2 years he's been starting, I would have thought for sure last year alone, the guy would have had, a couple 50, 60-yard runs, and that just hasn't happened. So it's very easy to watch him run, and you can see he's trying to avoid contact. Some of that is smart. If you're getting hit, trying to go down in a way that you're not going to, I get that sometimes, but it just feels like the decisiveness isn't there. I think sometimes, hey, if your first read's not there, your second read's not there, I wish he would just look to run and take off. I think he tries to sit in the pocket a little bit too long and force things into like a third or a fourth read. So I'm obviously armchair quarterbacking some of that, but I think it's been, hey, maybe call things that are a little more advantageous to him. He's honestly great when he gets outside of the pocket and throws the ball on the run. So whatever you can do to get him on the move, and kind of moving the pocket. And then, hey, if he wants to throw. If not, he can take off and run. But I just feel like the whole they've kind of protected him they've kind of, it feels like they've used gloves when handling him in general. And I don't know, like, hey, save him for an entire season. But if your season's going to start 1-3 because you're not utilizing the best asset that the offense has, which is his speed and athleticism and his legs, then what have you really saved? You know, again, talking about a pendulum swinging, I feel like they've skewed too far to that side, and it's two-pronged. Some of that is Avery, some of that is how they've coached him, and then some of that is the play calling, you know, and I'm sure any Texas Tech fans in the chat are probably popping off Matt Wells jokes about right now.
You know it.
Because, I mean, look, I don't think that's worked very well. I'll be honest. I don't think that's worked very well, and I don't know that he has the reputation of being a real in-your-face, hey, I'm going to instill a lot of toughness in the team type of a guy either. So, I can understand the frustration there. Tech fans, I do have to say this. I know that he kicked a field goal on second down one time or whatever it was. Like I've got 100 of you have sent that to my Twitter mentions in the last couple of weeks. I understand. I get the joke. He's going to kick field goals on second down. I know that happened. I'm aware.
John, what's your read on the early goings of the rest of the Big 12?
Yeah, it sucks that Arizona State lost that game. I did feel like that was a huge game in terms of perception for the conference. Not that there was a lot to gain, but there was a ton to lose. And I feel like that one's really going to hurt. But I do think that, I mean, the way Iowa State has played, the way Utah has looked, and what I seemingly have found with Utah is that I think they had enough cachet built up that people are buying back in on them pretty easily after seeing Devin Dampier and seeing the way that the defense has looked, especially in the UCLA game against Nico. So, I mean, I think those two should have pretty compelling cases, at least as of right now, assuming there's no stumble this week for an at-large bid toward the end of the year. Texas Tech is fascinating to me because, I mean, they look about as dominant as I can remember seeing a Big 12 team look playing anybody through the first 2 weeks of the season. And I know that's, I'm not trying to say Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Kent State is great competition, but I mean, there's a certain floor I think you have as a team when you can look that dominant in doing it. You know, in the first half, I had the stat. I was writing for my newsletter. What they've outscored teams in the first half through the first 2 weeks, like 90-0 or something like that. I mean, it's crazy. So I think it'll be interesting. BYU's defense looks great. Like if Bear Bachmeier, we don't know, I think, really what he is going to be throughout the course of the season. But if they can bring him along to just be solid, I think you got to watch out for BYU again. I still wouldn't write off Arizona State or Baylor. You know, I mean, Baylor has the best win of the Big 12 season so far, and Sawyer Robertson looks like a Heisman candidate at quarterback right now. So I don't think it's like dead and gone, any chance of an at-large and a couple teams in the playoff. And I think it's shaping up largely how we thought it would, that it feels pretty wide open, and there are a lot of teams that could probably get up there and challenge and contend for a Big 12 title. I mean, even, you know, you start, well, TCU, I feel like it's unfair to leave TCU out of this discussion. My assumption is just that Bill Belichick in North Carolina is a total mess. So maybe that's a part of this, that I'm not giving TCU enough credit for that, but they absolutely can be in that discussion as well. And they should have the schedule to go out and prove it against just about anybody in the Big 12 this year. So I feel like lots of contenders like we would have anticipated here. But that, to me, it feels like the top group that's pulling away a bit right now would be Texas Tech, TCU, Iowa State, and Utah up at the top of the league.
John, as far as tomorrow night, a couple of really intriguing games. Houston, Colorado. I think we're going to learn a bit more about those two, and they're in that like middle pack of we don't really know what to make of them. But how are you feeling about K-State and Arizona? Like Arizona's looked really sharp. They've handled their business. Fafita's looked good, and Kansas State's obviously been in a weird spot. But for some reason, I'm like leaning K-State here. What are your feelings on this matchup?
Yeah, Fafita, man, looked great last week, and got to be licking his chops looking at the K-State secondary. I don't think there's been a worse position group on the team than the secondary through the first couple of weeks. I mean, K-State gave up a 2-minute drill touchdoam to Army with its backup quarterback last week, if that tells you how things are going defensively. Yeah. Now, I know that's not all on the secondary, but yeah, it's weird. You know, the lines flipped back and forth a little bit, but last I checked, I think K-State was still like a 1.5 point favorite. I don't have much confidence. I mean, I'll tell you on 3-ball, I picked Arizona to win like 34-23, something like that. I mean, they've got to prove something to me before I'm going to pick them to beat just about anybody right now, because they really should be 0-3, to be honest, with a loss to North Dakota. But to me, it's a weird game because it still is a non-con. I mean, this is the non-con series that was scheduled before Arizona had joined the conference. And so if you're looking at this from like a purely logistical standpoint for the K-State schedule, you'd be like, well, this game really doesn't matter that much. You're not getting an at-large bid with a loss to Army, no matter how well things go the rest of the way. And it's not a conference game, so it's not going to affect conference title race, or if you are holding on to some outside playoff shot. You could tell me, hey, maybe if you lost this game and then won the Big 12, you wouldn't be one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champs. Okay, like maybe I would listen to that a little bit. There's not a ton of significance on the game, except for the fact that I think it means everything for K-State's season because of the mentality of this team. Like if you go lose another game and you're 1-3 right now after being basically the preseason favorite, I just don't know how you keep things together if you go lose another game right now. So, well, it doesn't like technically in a vacuum really mean much for the season. I think it absolutely is a massive game for K-State's season. And then for Arizona, yeah, it's kind of like adding some legitimacy to the 2-0 start, because nobody's going to get real excited about beating Hawaii and Weber State. But if you win this game, I think now everybody starts to look around like, well, okay. I mean, first of all, to start 3-0 and have 3 wins, I think is pretty significant. You'll pick up a lot of momentum. And this is at least a K-State team that has plenty of talent relative to the rest of the Big 12. So I think it's like Brent Brennan trying to legitimize all the changes made this offseason and new coordinators and all the change that program's undergone. It can definitely help legitimize it. And for K-State, it's just trying to get back on track and keep this thing from getting really out of control. And I mean, Houston, Colorado, also very interesting game, obviously, especially with Colorado making the change at quarterback. But Houston's defense has looked really good through the first couple weeks of the season. Second in the Big 12 in scoring defense, second in the Big 12 total defense. I mean, Connor Wegman looks solid, 5 touchdowns, no turnovers through 2 games so far this year. Turnovers are definitely a question mark that I had about him. I feel like if Houston really is taking a step forward, that's a game they probably should win on Friday. But maybe Colorado has found something here with Ryan Staub at quarterback. I don't know. Really fascinating storylines, I feel like, going on in that game.
John, I do not wish the curse of the leprechaun on even my worst enemy. And I saw it last year. You're seeing it now. That team that loses in Ireland, like it's just, and they've lost 2 games by 3 points and won a game by 3 points. So it's not like they're that far off, but that's what, I mean, I don't know. One makes the leprechaun happy. The other makes him mad. And I don't know how to explain that Ireland curse.
It's real, man. I don't know how to explain it other than saying it's a real thing at this point. I don't know how anybody can deny that. And Godspeed TCU next year. And my other frustration is that I saw the tweet going around the other day that the Chiefs volunteered to go play a game in Ireland. And I'm like, can we not? Can my teams stop trying to go play games in Ireland? Like, why do we need to do this? So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't know.
They have Patrick Mahomes, who creates a lot of luck through his ability anyway. Like he just, creates this situation where the lucky things are going to go their way. So yeah, I get it, John. Believe me, we're in the support group together, brother. John Kurtz, 3-Maw, K-Man Radio. John, thank you so much for hopping on today, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, boys.
All right. Craig, before we go, we make our picks in the next segment. And the way we'll do it is Craig's going to make all his picks. I'm going to make all my picks. And then we'll let you know, Smokies. Garrett, are you going to make picks? No, Garrett's not going to make picks. Apparently it's gone so poorly for Garrett. He's retired from picking games. I was 0-5 in week 1, and I wasn't a whole lot better last week. But nothing can make me quit. I just got this spam email. And I don't know. I mean, it's from a person, but it's from a Gmail account. No subject. Hello. Interested in basketball lessons for my kids. I would love to enroll my kids for basketball lessons. Where are you located, please?
Yeah, I've gotten that before and just trashed it like anything else. But spam email.
Should I write back and be like, listen, how good are your kids? Are we talking NIL good? Are we talking, Power 5 good? Or are we talking JUCO? Because if not, I don't just coach anybody.
Yeah, I guess they're not getting many responses, so they're still asking the same question they're asking a couple weeks ago when I got that. But I don't like the spam email, but sometimes it's like, what is this? Somebody that's actually? Oh no, this is definitely fake. But when I saw the basketball lessons thing, I was like, I wonder if it's some random local high school basketball coach or something. So I at least had to look into it for a second. But yeah, it was clearly some ring somewhere that's spamming the hell out of people with that question right there.
Yeah, I just can't wait for somebody to write back and be like, I'm in Denver.
Yeah,
bring them on. $200 an hour. When we come back, we make our picks for the week. I'm just getting bludgeoned, but that's okay. It's a long season. This is 365 Sports.
I received the note from Joshua at Don Humidor and Coffee Beans off of Valley Mills in Waco. Man, what a month they're having. They're doing a giveaway this month at the shop. Outcast Cigars swag. For each Outcast cigar you buy, you get one entry into the giveaway. For each box you buy, you get 15 entries. The giveaway will be announced on September 16th at 2 o'clock at their social media outlets. They're also having an event in October, on October the 9th, featuring Epic Cigars. And here's the Outcast Cigar Raffle. September 2nd through September 16th, winner announced on the 16th at 2 o'clock. Outcast Cigars, you get one ticket. A box, you get 15. Items that can be won during the drawing: an Outcast ashtray, an Outcast lighter and cutter combo, 2 Outcast stickers, and an Outcast t-shirt. So go by Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, Joshua Cheyenne, inside the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills, and also Richland Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Getting into a segment that we intended for yesterday, but we simply ran out of time with what all we had going on. So got to do it today, or else we'll be a little bit too late. And let's get our predictions in on some of the bigger games this weekend. And Do we have like total standings? I should have asked you this, but it just literally popped in my head. Do we have total standings for the first couple of weeks? We have at the end? Okay. Well, I know that last week, I believe I was 5-0. I think week 1, I was 2-3. All of us had a pretty brutal week number 1. I think probably a lot of people did, but nice bounce back last week. What's in store for this week? Well, here are my picks. So let's start off with Clemson and Georgia Tech, and I'm buying in to Georgia Tech. I'm buying into Clemson not being quite right, and I'm just a big believer in Haynes King as much as anything. Being at home as well certainly doesn't hurt. Now, Clemson, the favorites in this game, and I think the logical choice probably for most people, but with the way they've looked through these first couple of weeks, while very competitive with LSU, that was a game where I felt like LSU was clearly, to me, the better team, and then not at all looking good against Troy last week in what you thought was going to be a historic loss of sorts against the Trojans, able to battle their way back. But the defense isn't very good. And Cade Klubnik, for all of the, the preseason hype, I mean, who besides him, Arch Manning, for one, but who besides that got as much pub as Cade Klubnik this offseason?
Yeah. If Arch Manning didn't exist, I think it would have been Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, the Heisman favorite and ACC Player of the Year favorite and all of that. But, I think Haynes King got the chance to rest a little bit. He's forever a guy that's on the injured list, it seems like. But, give me Georgia Tech at home. And really intrigued by what the chatter is out of Clemson, South Carolina, if in fact the Tigers lose to the Yellow Jackets and start off the season 1-2. But I haven't seen enough from Clemson to give them the Clemson benefit of the doubt of like, oh, well, it's Clemson. They'll go win that game. They don't deserve that tag right now. So I'm going Georgia Tech. On to the next one, Georgia and Tennessee. Super excited about this one. How could you not be? And we all know that that was the podcast we did earlier. I think we were talking about Joey Aguilar, but great story so far. They've been able to have some bragging rights out there in Knoxville. I don't feel great about this, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. This was one where I think I did give Georgia kind of the Georgia benefit of the doubt, which is going against exactly what I just said with Clemson. Now, Georgia hasn't been quite as upside down as Clemson was these first 2 games, but they've also just not been so sensational that you're like, yeah, that's Georgia. That's the national championship favorites. This was gut feel as much as anything because I didn't get a great feel for one side or the other in this one, and probably stupid to go against Tennessee at home when all things seem like they're pretty equal feel-wise. But give me the Georgia Bulldogs to go and win a big game on the road. But again, not one that I am super confident. Like if I was placing the confidence meter, I don't know how I would rank these, but this might be the last one as far as confidence meter goes.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about my pick in this
game. But I'm going with Georgia here on the road against Tennessee. On to the next one, Miami USF. I think the Cinderella story comes to a close. South Florida is fun, and Byron Brown, we were talking about him there in week 1 with the first big upset and put him on the Heisman Trophy list, and he does have a knack for big plays, for timely plays. I think Miami, though, from top to bottom, just got a little bit too much on the lines and really all over. I think South Florida is going to be able to make it a very interesting game and perhaps a very close game. I think based on just kind of what I've seen throughout the week, opinions are sort of all over the place on how the game goes, but I think most round out to Miami winning this game, and that's where I found myself. I would love to see the story of South Florida continue on, but I'm going with the number 5 Canes and Carson Beck at home. Really liked what I saw against Notre Dame, and I just think they're the better, more well-built, more talented, superior team. They're also at home, but I'd love to see South Florida give them the horns and all that they can handle. So there you go. Going Canes here. LSU and Florida. I jokingly, kind of flippantly earlier, we were recording something else, talked about like this. Garrett's like, this is a game, right, Garrett? Everything's gonna be fine. He's like, no, not at all. And even I think more worrisome is the fact that Florida's in such a world of hurt right now that it's prime time for them. If you believe in the whole wounded animal type of theory of like, this is the worst time to play Florida is when their back's against the wall and they're going to have to gnash their teeth and do anything they can to kind of save face. But still, I liked what I saw against Clemson there in week 1 from LSU. Did not like what I saw last week, though. LSU, very bland, not very impressive in their follow-up. Now, all they needed to do is just take care of of the game and just win. But if you're going off style points, then you got a lot of style points in week number 1. You didn't get any style points really in week number 2, and it was a bit of a downturn in terms of those types of measurements. But yeah, still give me Garrett Nussmeier in this quarterback battle and give me LSU at home. But I know there's a lot of Tigers that are oddly nervous because it is Florida. It's Florida LSU. You just never throw the records out type of a thing. But also the fact that Florida really, really needs this victory, and LSU didn't look that good a week ago. I can see where some people are coming from, but I'm going with the home team here.
Yeah. We got one more. This is the last one. Okay.
And then Texas A&M and Notre Dame. I'm going with the Irish at home in South Bend. I think A&M's got a really solid squad. We talked about Marcel Reed earlier. Seems like his game's rounded into form as he gets more experience and more time. And I do like the weapons around him. Guys like Casey Concepcion had big performances already for the Aggies, and that's what you signed them up for. That's what you paid them for, and that's what you're hoping for. And so far, it's looked pretty good for A&M. But I like Notre Dame with a couple of weeks to prepare to bounce back. I think they're going to get Jeremiah Love going, even though it's a stingy Aggie defense. And I don't love there's not a decisive quarterback pendulum here that I think swings a direct way, because still jury's out on Notre Dame in that regard. So I think, if anything, I'd leave Marcel Reed in that. I think this is going to be a great game, but I'm oftentimes a guy that's guilty of, when all things are equal, defaulting to big home field advantages. And I think because this game's in South Bend, that's where eventually my mind went. So, yeah, give me the Irish at home and a big win over the Aggies.
All right, to my turn. Here we go. Trying to pull myself up out of the muck of this. An 0-5 week 1.
Wow.
0-5. I didn't even pick my own team.
Wow.
Like, I had no faith. 0-5.
I'm just gonna keep saying it.
Yeah,
wow.
It's bad. It hurt. You were 2-3, I believe, in the first week, and I was like, "Damn, Craig is so smart."
Yeah. Notre Dame actually helped me out there losing to Miami, because I was staring 1-4 straight in the face, and I thought I'd made a really poor decision, but the Canes pulled that out for me, made it at least somewhat acceptable.
Yeah. When that game was within 1 score in the last 5 minutes, I was like, no, I'm right. Mario's going to mess it up. He's going to call like an end around on a 3rd and 1 that would ice the game, and something bad's going to happen. But no, that did not happen. And they won the game. So I am picking Georgia Tech. Clemson. Everybody talked about their offseason, what they'd done, that their lines were better. They've got guys like Peter Woods on the defensive line, who's an absolute monster. But through the first 2 weeks, watching them, I just haven't seen that athleticism that they've been kind of missing the last couple of years, where they could just really turn it on. Even from Cade Klubnik, who has not played well. And if you're going to go on the road and you're already playing games where you kind of muck it up anyway, and that's your style, Georgia Tech is not the team you want to play, because they want that. Georgia Tech does not want to get out and run with you. They want you to they want to play in the phone booth. And if that happens, then I think it will. I think Georgia Tech's going to win this game. Clemson they're not scary. They're not bad. They're just not near as good as we all thought they were going to be. I mean, they were my national championship pick, and I couldn't run in a faster direction away from that right now with the way they're playing. Now, can they turn it around in a long season? Absolutely, but they don't look any different than the Clemson of the last 4 or 5 years. That is good, but not great anymore. So that's why I've got Georgia Tech in this one. Going on to the next one. Craig, you just made me feel better about my pick.
Yeah, you should.
I was very worried, because I thought I'd be the only one who picked Tennessee. I'm picking Tennessee at home for the same thing I just said about Clemson. Georgia just doesn't look like Georgia to me. They don't look like a team that you were like, holy crap, how are we going to stop this guy? They've got some good players. I don't know if they have the great players that they had anymore than they won those titles with. This is going to be a slobber knocker. It's a rivalry game. It's all that. It's SEC and all of it. I like Tennessee at home, mostly because I think Joey Aguilar brings a little bit more to the table than Gunnar Stockton does. I think Gunnar Stockton is kind of just a guy right now until he proves otherwise. Joey Aguilar's got something. He's got something to prove. This would be a big moment for him. So I'm going to go Rocky Top here and take the Vols, because they're at home. I just kind of like what they've got going on there, because at the end of spring, everybody kind of, shut the door on them and like, oh, well, they're just in a quarterback disaster. It's not going to be good. And I think they've got a big chip on their shoulder because of it. They got a lot of attention that they didn't ask for or want, and they've responded well so far. Miami and USF. I got to go with the Canes here at home. I think this game will be a lot closer than everybody thought it would be maybe at the beginning of the year, because I think the way that the Bulls play, their big play potential, they're gonna put a scare into Miami. I just think that this is going to come down to a depth thing of Miami's built a truly deep roster. I don't think Carson Beck is the kind of guy who's going to roll up 380 yards on USF. I think he'll beat Carson Beck, which is fine. It's fine. It's not he's not a gourmet quarterback, but he's not street meat. So it's fine. It's fine. They'll be all right. The system works. Miami's much better on defense than they were a year ago. That should allow Byron Brown, who, if they played this game last year, like if you took this team and sent them back in time to play Miami a year ago, given especially how they lost to Haynes King in that game, I don't know how they stop Byron Brown. I think they're more better equipped to do it now. I think they win. Although I think this game is well into the fourth quarter before they can feel any kind of good about it, because I think they're that well coached at South Florida, and they have a knack for kind of doing big things.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's expecting a blowout. I think more or less it's everybody anticipating Miami, but by what margin? Is it super close down to the wire, or do they win by like 10 and it's pretty comfortable? And if they were to blow USF out, that'd be a great win. That'd be a really impressive win.
Yeah, it would. LSU and Florida. I think Brian Kelly's got to take the opportunity with his big-time defense to kick Florida when they're down. Florida's got Dallas Wilson, wide receiver, out for the rest of the year. They've been kind of counting on him as a young player to step in and make big plays for them. Through the first couple, last week, they were not anywhere close to good on offense. DJ Lagway's looked really rusty because he didn't really practice that much in the fall. I don't think that, this week of practice is going to get him back to where he needs to be. Plus, Billy Napier is just under the gun really badly. Yes, he needs this win. I think LSU is too good with Garrett Nussmeier. I think that they've actually got Caden Durham in a position where he's healthy and is going north and south really, really well for them. And I think that they've got some playmakers on the outside that will allow an offense that's not maybe as prolific as I thought they might be, to be good. And I think their defense is really good. And I think that they'll keep Florida in check there as well. And finally, the second difference that we have, Craig, A&M and Notre Dame. I'm picking A&M. The only reason I'm doing that is not
Homer.
It's not because of that, because I usually pick against them in all these scenarios. But given the numbers we've heard on how long it's been since they've won a night game or a non-conference ranked road game and all of that, eventually those things do come to an end. And I think that A&M has just slightly more veterans than Notre Dame does, and just slightly more playmakers in total than Notre Dame does. And this game, like last year, goes down to the fourth quarter, but it's different. Marshall Reed's there. He's much improved. And the Aggies get it done and get Mike Elko's. It would be his second big win, because LSU was a huge one for them last year. But if A&M wants to take those next step, instead of having like one signature win per coach in their 4 or 5 years there, they have to start racking them up. I think Mike Elko does that. I think A&M wins in a very close game here. They're going to be in for a fight as Touchdown Jesus looks on, but I am picking the Aggies because I just think eventually all those long streaks must come to an end.
Yeah, no, I think that's a solid pick. I think that's a coin flip type of game, and don't have a real strong feeling. Normally I kind of just go with my gut on a lot of these things based on what I've seen, read, listened to, scoured. And this one right here was one I definitely went back and forth a lot on. Georgia, Tennessee was similar to that. The other three, I just feel like that was just kind of like no-brainer really. But this one is setting up to be a doozy, and would be a huge win for A&M, like you said. And again, Notre Dame starting off 0-2, even if it's against the two top 15-ish type teams, that's a big hole. Even if your schedule lets up a bit, it would be a sign that, yeah, you might be 0-2 and you might have lost 2 good teams, but clearly you're not as good or in that elite level if you're losing to a couple teams who are in that elite conversation as well, potentially.
Yeah.
It's a big game for the Irish and a big opportunity for Texas A&M. It's a good slate this weekend. And then you got a bunch of conference games that are getting played all over the place as well. So we can start getting into the standings and the races and all of that as well.
Yeah. We're pretty much, except for the SEC specials after this week, done with the duds. Other than here and there, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a few that get there, but for the most part, like this week kind of clears out the, games.
Yeah, because everybody's gonna have to get into conference play.
Exactly.
So, there's still some like Iowa State that played the first week of conference games. So they still have another non-con they're gonna have to eventually play, but you'll have Florida, Miami next week as well. So there's still some of that, but we're now eventually in week 4 going to start getting to where we're mostly playing conference games and having these league races starting up. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Smokey's picks, by the way, same as Craig. He picked Georgia Tech.
He's copying me, man.
He picked Georgia. He picked Miami. He picked LSU, and he picked Notre Dame. So here are the standings. Smokey is 5-5. Craig is 7-3. I am the mirror image of Craig at 3-7, but I could pick up as many as 2 games on both of them this week, so I could end the week tied with Smokey and taking a chunk out of Craig. But we'll see. I took one really big swing for sure.
Or you could be a speck in my rearview mirror
if
you lose both of those games, because I would have to, I think, go really sideways to lose like a 6-game lead. But it's possible. I mean, it's happened. And yeah, I mean, it's just fun to pick and to have these types of big games in front of us after previewing them for so long. So I'm excited. I think USF Miami's got a lot more sauce on it than it just originally was sort of baked into it. The way USF started certainly added some spice there. All of us on Georgia Tech, I could feel like that one going sideways, and Clemson just sort of flexes their muscle. But man, they haven't looked good. There's no reason to really buy into them outside of just you got that hunch that this is the week that they're going to put it kind of all together, and Cade Klubnik's going to play really well and so on. But LSU Florida should be great, and I think Notre Dame A&M is the game of the weekend, certainly. So and then Georgia Tennessee, like I said this a few minutes ago when I picked, that was one I didn't really have a great feel for, and would probably be, the game that I was just most unsure of. But I'm looking forward to that, right or wrong about it, because I'm looking forward to knowing more about those teams, because I've watched both of them, but not like sat down and watched them against a Georgia or against a Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to just learning as much as anything else this weekend about some more of these teams, and those two in that game will definitely be one of those.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Tennessee and Syracuse, and just enjoyed watching Joey Aguilar a lot. Georgia hasn't played anybody that would have made me turn the television on. So I haven't watched Georgia at all. I've seen a couple highlights, but I mean, again, they've played Marshall and they played Austin Peay. So I'm not worried about that. By the way, Austin Peay has a pretty awesome logo of the dude with the monocle.
Yeah, not bad.
I saw it all up and down the interstate when I was in Nashville last week. They're all over the place. When we come back, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. This is 365 Sports.
Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area. Bob Mock, the owner, has been in the pizza business forever. One of my first jobs that I ever had, honestly, was when I was able to get out of high school, went to college, but I delivered pizzas, and I loved it. I really enjoyed that. One night, I was not a morning person, so I'd do whatever I do throughout the day, and then I would go and work at a pizza restaurant and enjoyed it from the time where I learned how to deliver to the time I learned how to make the pizza, and then also even run the store. Specialty pizzas, get next level flavor from Marco's Pizza Deluxe, all meat, serving online, delivery, and you can order at Marco's Pizza, marcos.com, and pick it up yourself. Lunch, dinner, whatever it is, football season, nothing better, right, than having pizza, or what they have with wings too, salads, sandwiches, Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area in Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Robinson, and Woodway. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back into the show. Time for a little Off the Radar, taking a slight reprieve from the college ranks for just a few moments before we get into some Super League discussion / realignment. I don't know if realignment would really come into play here, but maybe sort of kind of down the line if this plays out a certain way. So we'll get to that here coming up in just a few minutes. But first, take a little bit of a break and talk about some other things that are ongoing as we do here on Off the Radar. And we've got a big one later on tonight in the NFL, as Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime will feature the Commanders. There's smiling, scary Terry McLaurin as he's got his contract. He's happy. He's back. Washington, a big week 1 win, and then the Green Bay Packers and their new star linebacker, Micah Parsons, still dealing with injuries, although didn't prevent him from getting a big, huge sack that was played like 1 billion times on ESPN over the last week. His first big mark felt there in Green Bay. I'm sure Paul loved that highlight as a Cowboys fan, but here we are, week 2 of the NFL. It gets underway tonight, and Commanders-Packers, I'm just glad as a lifelong Commanders fan to have a reason to care again after many years of just not caring. I mean, I don't know a better way to say it, really. I thought I might have a better way to say it, but nope, I just didn't care for a while because I didn't like Dan Snyder. The play on the field wasn't great. Organization, a total mess. And now, in a short amount of time, they've seemed to have turned the corner, not only on the field, but off the field. And Scary Terry is a big part of the reason why. So is that quarterback, Jaden Daniels. But any thoughts on Packers Commanders? Feels like a pretty big game here in week number 2.
Yeah, and a nice one for Amazon. They usually don't get these kind of games. It's a great quarterback matchup with Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love. I'm kind of pulling for the Commanders here just because I just am so mad about Micah Parsons, and I'll never not be mad about it. Like how it could have gotten. I'm not even taking sides. I'm just mad at the whole thing now.
Right.
I'm just mad at the whole thing. It should have never gotten that way. I'm mad at the Cowboys for telling me that somehow having a generational player gone is better. Like I'm mad at Micah for whatever he did to piss Jerry off. Like whatever it is, I'm just mad at the whole thing. So strangely enough, I'm rooting for the Commanders in this one, but I think it'll be a really fun game to watch. I think these are two really good teams. I think they are both roster loaded enough to make some good playoff runs should they not get the big injuries. And I think, the Commanders made some really good moves in the offseason. Deebo Samuel was a fantastic trade based on week 1 and
paid off in week 1 so far.
Yeah. So paid off in week 1. He's healthy and was a monster. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill.
I was going to say it's not Ja'Cory, it's Bill.
Yeah. Bill, as they call him, but he didn't play all last year because of a weird eligibility thing about when he was at his very first college before he transferred out. And now he's there just kind of tearing it up. So far they've got depth and they didn't even have their starting running back, Austin Eckler, last week. And they made it all work. So I like the Commanders and the way that they're built a lot. I like the vibe around their team, but I also think the Packers are really good. So this is going to be a tough one. And it's at Lambeau? It's at Lambeau, right? So it's in Lambeau, always a tough place to win, but short weeks are wild. So we'll see here.
Yeah, but it's a great game, and I think a great opportunity for both teams to notch a big one on their belts early on. We'll see. We think there's a long way to go in college. There's even a longer way to go in the NFL. But, yeah, both teams 1-0. So tonight at 7:15 Central on Prime Video, we get the full package of NFL up and running, and September 11th as well. So I'm sure there will be a tribute of sorts or, something on the broadcast. Does this day still register to you guys the same way?
For me,
it's kind of like faded. It's not that I don't recognize it. It's just not like as strong as in the years following, but I definitely still reflect back on where I was. And
it's been such a long time.
Yeah, it's been a really long time.
So yeah, it doesn't maybe like I don't
feel it as much.
I don't feel it as much, but like I remember every second of it.
Oh, I know exactly where I was, what chair I was sitting in, who broke the news, girl in front of me, like pre-cell phones, because we're old as you know what. But I guess no, it wasn't pre-cell phone. It was pre-having cell phones in class. Certainly, it was when that was. So I think somebody had seen something or heard something on the radio right before first period and turns around and tells me, and the world changed after that. As the rest of the day was spent in class, I don't know about you guys, but watching like TV the rest of the day. The teachers just turned on like whatever news networks were on and just said, watch this, because this is like just this is life-changing. And certainly it was, and all of our lives have been different since then. But still remembering those lost on 9/11 and still a very important day in our country's history. But yeah, I'm sure there will be some extra patriotism thrown onto it with it being the big broadcast tonight. So Commanders and Packers. Meanwhile, Micah Parsons did have the sack there in week number 1 and a pretty good start. But Cowboys got Deron Bland. That's awesome, right? Oh, wait. Deron Bland is now injured and unavailable for weeks, potentially. Cowboys getting the news that a right foot injury suffered in Monday's practice could sideline Bland for multiple weeks. He did not practice on Wednesday. And in not good news, but certainly bad news, it's not related to the other foot issue that he had. So, it's the same injury. It's all has something to do with one another. No, actually, it doesn't have anything to do with the foot injury from a year ago that cost him nearly half the season. So this is a brand new injury. And so injury not considered super serious, but yeah, he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. Just signed 4-year, $92 million extension on August 31st. So less than 2 weeks ago, $50 million guaranteed. He had 4 tackles and a quarterback hurry in the opener to the opening loss against the Philadelphia Eagles a week ago. So there you go. And then Trayvon Diggs still awaiting word as he starts to try to work his way back into things as well. And I know that I'm one of many who said, hey, the Cowboys looked respectable last week, and you lost your mind because you're a Cowboys fan. But I think it also speaks to just where we kind of measure them now at this point of it was competitive, and I don't think everybody expected it to necessarily be competitive. So that's where I think a lot of the it looked good comes from, is that, hey, they hung with the Eagles. Now, there was this huge, literally factor that was taken out of the game immediately that probably would have had some say in how that whole game went. But even still, I think there was such a concern that they were going to get embarrassed or something, that the fact that it wasn't embarrassing and it was somewhat of a tight game, just I guess gave people some hope, because post Micah, everybody was just so down in the dumps. They're looking for positives.
Well, look, here's the thing about the Cowboys. Micah was a factor for them, absolutely. And he was a game changer. But at full strength on offense, which they were, they're not going to get blown out. I know that that's how the Cowboys go. If you look at – and look, I've watched every second of every Cowboys game. I mean, for, I don't know, how much, 45 for the last 40 years? I mean, I haven't missed one. I can tell you this is how they go right now. This is it, 24-20. They probably beat the Giants this week because they seemingly always beat the Giants now. But I think that and the one thing that Jerry has now created is that he was so focused on keeping them relevant while not maybe putting the pedal to the floor on doing everything he could to make sure that they're better than the teams just in their division, which he hasn't, that now, get to the NFC Championship game, or I don't care anymore. I'm done with the optimism, or this could be the year. I'm just done with it until they do it, because I see that, in the offseason, there are things that they do that other teams don't do and they don't get out in front of. And then when it happens and everybody told them it would, they're like, oh, no, we really like our guys. You're like, okay, well, there's other guys who could come in and compete with those guys. The best teams do that, and the best teams are always not afraid to challenge the guys in their own locker room with the NFL stands for not for long. And the Cowboys just don't do that. They just don't do it. They don't create enough competition in their locker room. They consider themselves set far too many times and just kind of roll on. And that's they love the smell of their own cologne just a little bit too much. And that's where, as a fan, I've just been pushed to get to the NFC Championship game, and then we can talk about optimism.
Yeah, well, different outlooks for people. I think you're also trying to manage in your head, if you're a Cowboys fan, this is a very long season, so you're going to take whatever positives you can get. But there's also just being realistic and calling a spade and saying, it's more of the same and nothing else has really changed. So Trayvon Diggs looks like he might play a little bit more, but they're just kind of trying to ramp him up to full strength right now. But Deron Bland's out for the foreseeable future. So as of right now, if we're talking like Joey Aguilar's dad saying, I think we know who won that trade. As of right now, the Packers have won that trade. I think pretty clear to say. And I bet based on jersey sales, they've definitely won that trade. So there you go with that. But Commanders and Packers coming up later on tonight. I did see the comment from CeeDee Lamb, and I was just curious of how much you were pulling your hair out last week with his big drops, but he was talking about that. He said, I wouldn't rather nobody else but myself be in those situations. I came up short once. We'll see the rest. Trust me, I've thought about it. I've dwelled on it. I've done everything that you could possibly imagine about this game. For all those that feel like they feel worse about that game than me, you're absolutely wrong. So good guy, CeeDee Lamb. Favorite of mine. Loved watching him in the Crimson and Cream.
He's one of my favorite Cowboys of recent memory.
But that was wild seeing him just have.
Three drops.
It was right on his hands too. I mean, some of them not perfectly placed, but they touched your hands. You should have caught him in big moments. Typically, he would. Nope. But he's being accountable is what you like to see. Meanwhile, there are some injuries going around in the NFL, and I mentioned a couple of them when it comes to the Cowboys. But one pertains to a a Big 12 favorite there in Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of reports about Brock Purdy and how much time he is going to miss, potentially because he is deemed a long shot for week number 2 as they get ready to tangle the 49ers with the New Orleans Saints. Purdy has toe and left shoulder injuries that happened in last week's second quarter win against the Seahawks. Kyle Shanahan, his head coach, said that the toe is the bigger concern and that it's unlikely Purdy will play against the Saints, calling it a long shot, but saying when asked if Purdy might miss like multiple games and not just this week, he said it's possible. John Lynch was on local radio, said Purdy is week to week, a designation that they reached after consulting with trainers and doctors and also a foot and ankle specialist. He said what we're dealing with is kind of a week to week thing. So Brock Purdy out likely for this week, and then we'll see how long after that for San Francisco.
Yeah, that's tough. Mac Jones. I hope 49er fans are ready for that ride. I hope they're ready for that. And who knows? He might have a good little run. Kyle Shanahan's had good history with kind of rehabbing quarterbacks before, and we'll see. And they're getting some of their guys back, but there's been no team the last 2 years that's been more besieged by injuries than the 49ers.
Oh yeah, it's been crazy. So yeah, I just hope Purdy can get healthy because they're a team that's good when they're healthy, and you obviously want to see him make the most of his opportunities. And so we'll see how quickly he comes back, and realize taking a bit of time. So I'll just close it out with this, but you're going to have plenty of college football this weekend. You're going to have plenty of the NFL this weekend, but if you're into fighting, then there's also a big matchup this weekend, the biggest boxing match of the year. I believe I saw it was called the most bet fight of the year. Now, I'm not following combat sports closely enough these days to know every single fight and its status as far as big fights go. I do know this is a big damn deal for a lot of different reasons. Two of the greatest fighters of this generation, belts on the line, big show feel out in Las Vegas for this one coming up on Saturday night. Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford very well could be the fight of the year. Alvarez, the number 8 pound for pound boxer in the world, 63-2-2, 39 KOs. Crawford 41-0, 31 KOs, number 3 on the pound for pound list. So top 10 pound for pound fighters, and Canelo will be putting his super middleweight championship on the line. And both fighters have won world titles in 4 different divisions. And so this is part of the appeal of this matchup is Terrence Crawford trying to grab more real estate for himself. And right now, Canelo Alvarez seems to be the pretty heavy favorite, but that also could be because Terrence Crawford's jumping up a couple weight classes. And when you're doing that, that doesn't always necessarily bode well. But it will be Canelo's undisputed super middleweight championship on the line for Crawford, who is coming up a couple weight classes and has held like all the belts in the welterweight, junior welterweight, and so on. So, has this registered on your radar at all? Or here's the thing: is normally I talk about a boxing pay-per-view, which is not often. This is a big enough fight to do so. And normally why I don't care as much is because I'm not going to shill out $70 for whatever pay-per-view or what have you. This is free on Netflix on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So if you have Netflix, this is the kind of stuff they're doing nowadays that you don't have to pay $100 for the fight. Just if you got Netflix, you can just pop this baby on just like you would a documentary, and it's the biggest fight of the year.
I think the best thing for combat sports fans is stuff like this where, potentially for big fights, you don't have to do what you did before.
That's the UFC tactic now with their Paramount deal.
Yeah, exactly. Because part of it is also like, it's just a realization by the industry of, okay, I could pay $100 for this fight, and I know that you're gonna put this card in front of it and say that like I'm paying for all these. But for the most part, unless I'm a super fan, the first 2 or 3 fights I'm just watching because I'm at somebody's house.
Oh no, I'm going to tune in about 10 o'clock on Saturday night and see where we are.
So like, if the only way I'm going to watch them is if like you're at a party where you're like, you came for the fight, right? And so you can get some of these that are billed like really big, and then they can end in 20 minutes. And then you've like, I just paid how much money for this, and it's already over. And it wasn't that good.
Only time that's ever been cool was when there was a super quick finish for a big time show or the time that at least registers to me was when Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo after the months and months and months of very personal buildup, and McGregor was like very much on his meteoric rise at that point. And then after all that talk and all that buildup and all the documentaries and everything else, Conor knocks him out in like the first 15, 20 seconds, and you're just like, oh my God. And that would have felt like you got ripped off a little bit, except for the fact that it was so incredible because of just the state of things at that point that you didn't feel like you got, you didn't feel like you didn't get your money's worth for that one necessarily. But you're right. Like there's a lot of just kind of filler if you're not a real boxing fan, but you just got to pop on Netflix sometime like probably 10 o'clock or later. And you can see one of the biggest fights. And this isn't a Paul brother fighting some dude who's like 4 weight classes lower and 40 years older, or Mike Tyson trying to come out of retirement at 60 plus years old. This is actually 2 of the greatest walking pound for pound today, fighting for gold. So this ought to be awesome. Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. I will be watching this along with a lot of college football this weekend. And speaking of college football, we'll get right back to that. There's a few things off the radar, but let's talk about the message sent potentially by Ohio State and how it affects the future of college football and money and conferences and all that. That's coming up next. It's 365 Sports.
Can you say 0% financing for 72 months? Yep. That's what's going on right now at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. General manager and CEO is Ted Teague. Sales manager David Gray. 0% just announced for 72 months back at Allen Samuels in Waco. All 2025 Ram 1500 light-duty trucks qualified for 0% for 72 months, or you can take the insane rebates that can be combined with 3.9% for 72 months. Here's an example. 2025 Laramie 1500 crew cab, take $16,000 off and get 3.9% for 72 months financing on top of that. Or the 2025 Lone Star 1500 crew cab, take $12,000 off, get 3.9% financing 72 months. And then the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee, a phenomenal SUV, 3 rows for 0%, 60 months, or a Jeep Grand Cherokee 2-row for $31,995. A crazy month with crazy deals, incentives, and more. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
At Sturdy Steel, we build more than grandstands and press boxes. We build the spaces where communities come together. Based in Texas and serving communities nationwide, we're proud of our reputation for dependable, high-quality work and strong client relationships that stand the test of time. From concept to installation, our team of skilled drafters, welders, and installers takes pride in delivering seating solutions designed to last. With a focus on dependability, transparency, and service, we are here to make the unique needs of architects, contractors, schools, and venues across the country. We ensure every project is seamless, sturdy, and ready for generations of fans to enjoy. That's Sturdy Steel.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul and Craig with you here on Friday. Craig sent this along today for a discussion topic, and it's one of the least surprising things in the world, and we saw it from Nicole Auerbach. Basically, I'll just summarize this. A revenue sharing discussion is on the horizon for the Big Ten with schools like Ohio State, and this is their president saying it, that, look, it's on the horizon. If the ACC is going to do this with Florida State and Clemson and Miami and whoever brings in the biggest TV numbers, and the team that gets to the playoff and has that is going to get a bigger share of it, why would we not do that? And it's not surprising that Ohio State would be the first one to say this because, quite honestly, Craig, they've been carrying that league for 30 years.
I mean, yeah, Ted Carter spoke with USA Today, did an interview where he talked about a lot of different things, and he didn't this wasn't the focus necessarily right from the start of this interview, but once it started circulating a little bit, people started looking into his comments, and it worked its way into being a more big picture conversations. And the USA Today article outlines all the money that Ohio State's making in all their various sports. I mean, they're as well off as anybody not named Texas, but there's nobody else that you would even really say is above them. Maybe a few peers in line with them, but yeah, they're right there near the top. $325 million in athletics revenue last year, operating at a surplus. So they're doing really well, but the article got into Clemson and Florida State and their disputes, obviously, with the ACC that resulted in ultimately the ACC deciding to do uneven revenue sharing to appease Florida State and Miami. And also we get in these conversations about it being performance-based. So he was asked whether he foresaw something similar happening in the Big Ten because of the big brands like Ohio State and Michigan. He said, I don't want to get into the type of conversations that are happening inside the Big Ten. I would just tell you that we're a proud member of the Big Ten, and that's where we're going to stay. We have our own bylaws for how we do the distributions. When new members join the conference, they don't always come in at the same share. So that's the way our media rights deals are set up. That's how we're set up for now. And so he said for now, so he was asked, well, what happens in the next 4 or 5 years when new TV contracts? He said, we don't have any answers. I will say that there's only a couple of schools that really represent the biggest brands in the Big Ten, and you can see that by the TV viewership. I mean, look at what we just went through with the Texas game. 16+ million people watching that game over the whole game, and it peaked at 18.6 million. It's the most watched opening game in history, third largest game ever watched in a regular season. So that's what happens when you put the Ohio State brand out there. And so kudos to the reporter who kept following up. Well, what does that mean as far as the future goes? He said, it doesn't matter what Ted Carter thinks. I think that's going to be a conversation that will be had over time, and that Ohio State is committed to maintaining its current status quo. Regardless of what happens in the future, he expects that they will, be affected to some degree by rules, but Ohio State's not going to be like cutting sports or anything crazy like that. So he talked about, I guess, more in depth about how they want to be self-sufficient, and a lot of it was about personally his plans for Ohio State, talked about apparel deals and things like that. But ultimately it was the comments about the revenue sharing in the Big Ten that caught people's eyes and started this thing swirling around. And I do find it interesting. It said us in Michigan, like the couple of big, Oregon would have something to say about that at this point. Like Oregon's very much carrying their own weight. They may not have the natties, but they're making a lot of money. They bring in TV viewers. And I don't know, as far as Penn State, like what you would consider them if you're not lumping them into that group as well. But I'd say you've got at least company with them. USC, when they're at their best, I think is definitely a huge brand. If you want to have conversations past that about the Indianas and the Illinois of the world, that's fine. But I think when you're talking about a couple big brands, yes, it's clearly Ohio State and Michigan's conference, but there are a couple of others out there that you go like, well, they'd be included too, you would think. Or would they? Like, would they let Oregon be in their little club for the extra money? I don't know. That was where it would be interesting.
I would think so, given that Oregon is not getting their full share right now. And this maybe allows a discussion where people can get more than their full share or all that. And if you follow the ACC, look, the ACC model is not set up. It's not specifically written that Clemson and Florida State will get more money. It's written that the teams that get the highest TV ratings, that get in the playoff, that those teams, it's a performance bonus thing. Well, I mean, it might as well be, because that's who's going to get, like, until Wake Forest captures the national zeitgeist, they're not going to push those numbers.
No, yeah.
Like they might, have a great year where they win the ACC and get to the playoff and get that larger share. But, for the most part in the ACC, until there's not an ACC or not in this same form, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, those three schools that routinely get the highest television ratings, and whoever the fourth one is year in and year out, are going to have a bigger advantage than everybody else when it comes to financially. Yeah. Because what we've seen is when Miami's bad, when Florida State's bad, when Clemson's average, people still watch the games because they're brands. And so they're protecting the brand. So, yeah, Oregon would get it. USC would get it. Like those schools would. And then there'd be the sliding scale. I believe that not having equal revenue distribution throughout a conference ultimately leads to problems, but the world is changing so much. I can't imagine every other league not doing something exactly like this, except for maybe the Big 12, because everybody's on pretty equal footing when it comes to their national recognition.
Yeah, when it comes to the Brand's comment, they are the only two that are in the top 10 of like the national TV ratings. So if he's referring to that specifically, that's where, Ohio State and Michigan are the clear top dogs in the Big 10. But I guess if you expanded that to like the top 20, and we know any kind of future configuration, it could include everybody that includes right now, or it could be more of an elite category. But if you definitely would spread your wings beyond the 10. But as far as like the two big ratings draws in the top 10 nationally, Ohio State and Michigan are those two. And I would imagine the USC, Oregon, Penn State are somewhere in that mix as well. Don't know about everybody else there. So it's happening. FSU's joining the Big 12 or anything like that, but it is interesting comments from Ohio State about the possibility and the fact that they're talking about some things, not things that they really want to talk about publicly, but in private conversations are happening, and they've definitely looked at what the ACC's done here of late, and we know they're also probably sitting there waiting for the ACC to show some more cracks so they can scoop in. Now, how would that throw a ringer? That's a conversation for another day if you're suddenly adding more teams and having a revenue sharing conversation. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that we see others follow suit, especially the haves. If you see more money being made based on TV ratings and you're one of the biggest TV ratings draws there is, then yeah, it sounds like a good path for you to walk down. And also, if you're in Ohio State, should you be making the same amount of money as a Wake Forest? No, probably not. Or like a Purdue, or just whoever, a Northwestern you want to throw into that mix? No, probably not. So just interesting to hear from one of the leaders at a school the size of Ohio State and who's in a particularly elite place talk about I'm not saying anything, but I'm not saying nothing. And I don't think this is any surprise or shocker in all capitals or anything like that. It's just more kind of like little breadcrumbs leading us to wherever this eventually goes here in about 5 years, when everything does come up and you're suddenly reworking these TV deals, including the Big Ten. Are we suddenly seeing revenue sharing added there? So yeah, it's just more breadcrumbs, if anything, to whatever awaits us on this other venture when all the TV deals start to get renegotiated.
And the other thing is it's a hostage situation for the schools that won't, because what's their alternative? I mean, how much? Yeah. I mean, they can push their weight so far, and if there's enough pushback, then maybe. But I don't see, like, again, it's hard to go up against the Giants, right, and expect to do it, especially when everything is so bifurcated. I mean, it's not even bifurcated, but like everything is, this isn't like if you've got all the big brands together, the super duper league brands, like you talk about the one that's the super league, put that together and it's us versus them. That's the only time you have the majority, right? Is where you could say like, no, we're not going to do this. You need us. We need you. We need a better deal here. But since they're negotiating this out conference by conference, what can you do?
I think one thing outside of just pure history and actually caring about the overall health of the game, which I think comes into play sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But I do also think that the Ohio States and Michigans of the world love being the bosses. Like if you were to go jump into a league with nothing but teams similar to you, of which there's only a few, you're all on equal footing. It'd be pretty cool, but also you're not like the big bad in charge anymore like you have been basically your entire history. So again, nothing crazy, nothing to like start sounding the alarm bells over or anything like that, but just more, I guess, reaffirming sort of the big conversations that are going to be taking place here in the next few years. And revenue sharing is going to be that conversation for not the Big 12, because you don't have the brands where you have to worry about. That's actually the good part about being sort of just everybody's similar, is that Arizona State can't say, well, we deserve more than TCU. Like, no, you don't. But in the Big Ten, you do have some schools that can say that. In the ACC, you have some schools that did say that and got what they wanted. And you wonder, in the SEC, does it ever come around to that as well? Ultimately, one day, I don't know. But there's Ohio State on the record talking about there's at least conversations and not much being revealed, but there are conversations.
Yeah, well, we'll see where that goes. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, is finally back from Philadelphia after what felt, I'm sure, like, it was only like an hour and a half-ish, whatever it was, and the delay. It was a long time. I've been in those press boxes. Like they again, you could tell me it's a 27-minute rain delay. 27 minutes feels like 27 days when you're in that situation waiting for a game to restart, doesn't it, Mick?
And they took up all the food.
Oh, those guys from Philly, can't trust them.
Of all times to have a delay when you're, knowing you got a 2.5, 3 hour flight back home, you're supposed to go, although we only got in a half hour later than normal. So I think the pilot must have done some speeding or something. But yeah, of all times when you're that far away and it's a night game, I got to bed at 5:30, got my 3 hours sleep. So no big deal.
Yeah, well, you're fine. You're fine. Mickey, clearly the defense felt the absence of Micah Parsons in week 1. And they brought in Jadeveon Clowney for a visit. And I assume they're going to continue to do things like that until they feel good about the pass rush.
Did they miss one sack?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was maybe the presence more than anything, at least from it's not numbers. And again, he hadn't practiced, but there's a difference when he's not there.
Well,
I'm not saying it's the end of the world.
I get that. But if I had told you going into the game, they're only going to give up 24 points and Saquon Barkley's only going to rush for 60 yards, you'd have jumped all over that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It wasn't Parsons missing. It was the fact that they fumbled the ball at the 11-yard line going in for a touchdown, and they didn't score any points in the second half. They scored 20 in the first half. So, yeah, I don't look at it that way. And I know that you're not going to get the full value of the trade until, you start getting the first round draft choices. And I understand that, he could have played 25 snaps or so and might have cut down on all the running that Jalen Hurts did. But still, it was 24-20, and they were like one drive away from winning the game.
Yeah, and you can tell that there are like, again, it didn't unhinge the whole like my point was it didn't unhinge the whole team. Like they're just going to have to find who the new playmakers are going to be. They didn't really, it wasn't spectacular. Like there wasn't the Micah Parsons, like how did he come out of nowhere? But they have a lot of young guys that do that. I mean, they've got a rookie in Donovan Ezeraku, 2 second-year guys essentially with Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon, that are there. So that in addition to Dante Fowler, who's now the wily old veteran of the pass rush group, it's just going to take some time for them to find who's got the juice, right?
Yeah, and they had the only sack of the game, and the only quarterback hit of the game. So, look. The whole game came down to them not staying in their rush lanes and allowing Jalen Hurts to be the leading rusher in the game, right? That's what decided the game, that they allowed him to run for 2 touchdowns, 62 yards, averaged like 8 or 9 yards a carry. You're better off making them throw the ball than letting them take off and improvise running the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week they've got a Giants team that they have had a massive amount of recent success against. One that has a bit of a quarterback controversy in that the fans want to see Jackson Dart. They want to see their first-round draft pick. They want to see him sooner rather than later. Russell Wilson was, I don't know what they expected out of him in week 1. He was about what he's been the last couple of years. What do you see as the biggest challenges from the Giants for the Cowboys this week?
Well, and let's remember, this team hasn't won, 8 straight games against the Giants or 15 of the last 16, right? This is a new team. So they haven't done anything against the Giants. But look, couple things. One, as you saw against Washington, Russell Wilson's going to take off the minute he's in danger. So they can't allow him to be running the ball all over the field. And, against the Commanders, he ended up being the Giants' leading rusher with 44 yards, and they were all scrambles. So I think they have to guard against that. And then, the Giants have a couple, 2, 3 really nice pass rushers. So you better be able to run the ball a little bit against them. And I know Washington did, although a lot of their yards ended up being, Jaden Daniels pulling the ball down and running. But if you can do that and maybe score more than 20 points, that's what you got to do to be able to win this game. Because don't forget that if you watch that Giants game against Washington, the Giants had 11 snaps from the 8-yard line in and only came away with 1 field goal. And so they were really on the edge there, doing something that no one thought they could do, but they couldn't do it inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, Mickey, offensively, CeeDee Lamb was spectacular for most of it, except in key spots. He made those big drops. And I love that the sports world wants to think that CeeDee Lamb all of a sudden has forgotten how to play football because of a momentary lapse. But they would like to get more of their weapons involved. How much that just dictates into the game plan, what Philadelphia was doing. And look, we talked about it before. These guys don't play in games that much together in the preseason. The first couple of weeks is almost, even though it counts, kind of an extension of what it used to be, where they play 4 or 5 preseason games.
Well, take into consideration that was the first game those 5 guys played on the offensive line for the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. They had never played a game together. And I'm counting the preseason also. And you had a rookie starting at right guard. You had Tyler Guyton coming back after suffering the knee bone fracture like July 28th. He had one padded practice before that game, and he played 100% of the snaps. And you got a second-year center. So there wasn't a lot of experience on that offensive line, but I thought they held up pretty well. Now, it helps that Jalen Carter lost his mind and had a $57,000 worth of spit before the game ever started, right? But I thought the offensive line did well. I just thought that the fumble, Miles Sanders, there in the third quarter, changed the whole complexion of the game because the Cowboys were scoring on every possession they had until that happened, and then they didn't score again. So if CD Lamb does what CD Lamb does, he's going to have 10 catches for nearly 200 yards. And as it was 7 for 110, I think it was.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. And the same thing with Jake Ferguson. He had the ball in the end zone. If he catches that, the fumble never happens. So, you got to make those plays when you got the opportunity, and they didn't do it. And while everybody was patting them on the back, oh, good job, you came close, I'm sure they were kicking themselves in the butt that they didn't win the game.
Yeah, Mickey, the running game, obviously, it's always going to be a work in progress, but Javonte Williams had the 2 short touchdowns, 3.6 yards a carry. Again, the first right out of the box for him in a long time. What was your assessment of the overall running game? Miles Sanders had the long one, obviously, and he also had the fumble, but what do you think about where that's headed with these guys and how they make that work, given that they're holding back the young guys for right now?
It should have been good enough to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I mean, and look at what they were up against. The whole atmosphere there. I thought Javonte Williams ran the ball effectively. If they don't have that fumble, it's a pretty good performance by those 2 guys. And at some point they'll get Jaden Blue on the field to be able to capitalize on his speed that, we know they have. So I thought Dak played awfully well, used his legs to get away in some, look like sure sacks. So, yeah, they just need to clean that stuff up. But for an opening game, and they didn't play anybody in the preseason, I thought it was commendable. And the word I kept using was encouraging, because I don't think anybody was expecting anything like that from this team in the opener Thursday night in Philadelphia against the defending Super Bowl champions.
Mickey, do you get this sense in the last, I heard all the players say that they were just happy that the Micah thing was resolved. Like that's maybe the bigger thing. Like some guys may miss him more than others, but the tension is gone. Have you felt that around them, that like maybe there's a little bit of a lighter mood, like not say lighter mood, but like they're able to kind of function within their day a little bit better?
I don't know. I never felt that there was tension. Mm-hmm. These guys have to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They can't sit there worrying about a guy that wants to make $47 million a season. Right. And I think for some of them, it might've been a wake up call. Well, if they can trade Micah Parsons, they sure can trade my butt out of here. Right.
Yeah.
So you better worry about yourself. I didn't see anything. I know the things CD said, and it seemed like the only people that really spoke up were the people that had money in the bank. The rest of the guys, they were worried about themselves, right? So, yeah, I don't think it distracted anything. Now, would they have liked to have him out there? I'm sure. But I think some of the guys that wanted to get paid were probably going, well, okay, he left some money on the table for me, Deron Bland, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, Tyler Smith will get paid. And, you mentioned they brought in Clowney. I don't think it was desperate, because they weren't going to over offer him. And I think he wanted more than whatever they did offer him. it was like, well, maybe we can take advantage of something like this to bring in an experienced guy. But just remember, he played for 5 teams in the last 6 years. So there's something there that was missing when those other teams didn't keep him. And Carolina, by the way, signed him to a 2-year, $20 million deal with $12 million guaranteed. And they cut him. And they're going to take a $6 million hit for dead money against the cap. So again, I don't think they were looking at, oh, this is the savior. I think they looked at it as, oh, it's week 2 and a vested veteran's contract is not guaranteed like it would be if they're there for the start of the season. And let's see what we can get out of this possibly. And I think there was some, expectation that they were going to get it done. And he was here the whole day, watched practice, and then departed without a deal. So my guess is he's thinking somebody out there is going to pay him more money.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. I'll be here.
All right. Mickey Spagnola with us every single Thursday. This is 365 Sports. The top 5's up next.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, presented by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Look, the coaching carousel will heat up faster than you realize. So I thought the theme this week, after yesterday's hot seat, would be just some ideas I have on coaches who might get looks in the G6 for the 2026 season. So let's dive right in, shall we? Number 5, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. All this guy has done is win there, and Memphis, Tulane, and USF have a great shot at getting to the playoff this year out of the AAC. We'll talk about a lot of these coaches in this segment today, but Ryan Silverfield, one of the better offensive line coaches and developers in the country. He's a solid play caller, recruits the Memphis and Tennessee areas really well, and has been able to work the transfer portal in his favor and keeps players in the program for longer than most G6 programs. So if I want a guy who can retain, develop, and is a really good coach And play caller, Ryan Silverfield is your guy at Memphis. Number 4, G.J. Kenny. Oh, that offense is fun, and he's not afraid of anything. He will just grip it and rip it. They play Arizona State on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to this one. It was dicey last year. Arizona State came out on top, but Texas State not going to let up off the gas this year. They're going to go until their point is made. G.J. Kenny, one of the interesting young coaches in all of college football, and if the major program has an opening in Texas, he is probably one of the top candidates, along with Jeff Traylor, who did not make this list, but he probably could have if I hadn't put him on, like, I don't know what, Garrett, like 17 other lists in the past. Just need to freshen up. I also did not include Jamie Chadwell on this list, which is a first, even though I do admire the coaching prowess of Jamie Chadwell. Number 3, John Sumrall at Tulane. The SEC is going to want this guy. The good news for him is he's probably not going to get hired at Florida. Why is that good news, you say? Well, it's good news when anyone doesn't have to move to Gainesville. Zing! But John Sumrall, I don't think he'll get the job at Florida should it open up with Billy Napier, because they already went down that road before. They're going to swing for a coach with a little bit bigger resume. But if you do hire John Sumrall, you're getting a tough as nails, defensive-minded coach. He'll work well in any conference. He will do a good job. This is someone you want on your sideline. And look, he appears to like Tulane too. So you're going to have to really make an offer and give him some autonomy there at your school to get him there. Number 2, Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky. Do you like quarterback play? Do you like big-time offense? Do you like no matter where the quarterback comes from, they can throw for 7 billion yards? Well, that's Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky. If you would like to run a wide-open offense, I think he's your guy. Also, if you're a major program that has lacked an identity for a long time, this is a guy in the Mike Leach vein that can come in and give you that identity. I'm kind of looking at you, UCLA. You want to make things fun down in the fancy part of L.A., where Will Smith once moved from West Philadelphia? Then you hire a guy who runs a system like Tyson Helton, who can maybe get you over the top and get butts in the seats in the Rose Bowl for an exciting offense, and he can develop quarterbacks. Bottom line, UCLA, call Tyson Helton. All I'm saying. And number 1, I mean, this one's obvious. Alex Golesh, the talk of college football the first couple of weeks because of Byron Brown, his quarterback, the fact that they've stuck it to 2 ranked teams, and they've put Billy Napier officially on notice in Gainesville. There's a lot. They're going down to play Miami this week. Should they win that game, USF is going to have to put on a full court press. Yes, that's a basketball terminology, to keep Alex Golesh, because everybody who wants a coach in the country, he's going to be one of their first calls. He's ready to go. He's coaching the big leagues. He coached with Josh Heupel. This dude is ready to go. And for USF's sake, I hope they get to keep him for a little while. But the big money's coming after Alex Golesh sooner rather than later, and they've got to be ready. But this guy is the man, and everybody's starting to figure it out. That's the top 5. We've got trivia and polls. This 365 Sports. Okay. So what are we doing first? Trivia? Oh, look, there's me and me. It's weird. Okay. In 1914, a football star named Leonard Bear. Sorry, I got a smudge in my glasses. Helped inspire this school's mascot and first appeared in Halloween matchup against the Kentucky Wildcats.
Huh. Man, y'all are getting in the bag now. We were too good at some of the simple stuff. Yeah, Garrett's proud of himself.
Yeah.
First I've ever heard of this question, to my knowledge. So Leonard Bear in 1914.
I'm gonna say
I'm kind of leaning Cincinnati.
I'm
for some
leaning
reason.
Cincinnati too. I'm gonna say Cincinnati.
I think it's because of the Kentucky thing is why I'm thinking that.
Yeah. 1914, Baylor, Cal, and Maine probably not going to play Kentucky.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know, but for some reason, my first instinct is also Cincinnati.
All right.
So, what do you want to go with Cincinnati
we're
here?
Go Cincinnati.
Bang!
Hot diggity damn! There we go. Yeah.
trailing the Wildcats. So let's go back to that. I want to learn.
Yeah.
Trailing the Wildcats in 1914, UC captain Teddy Bear shouted, "Give me the GD ball." Head cheerleader Norman Lyon fired back, "They may be Wildcats, but we have a Bearcat." Oh, okay, wow. UC won 14-7, Bearcat name stuck next day in the student newspaper. See, I always thought it was a cool name.
Yeah.
And now I know, like, I thought it was just based on the animal entirely or whatever. But, okay, cool. There you go.
All right.
Cincinnati, Nate.
There we go. All right. In 1928, a 44-year-old coach famously came off the bench in a championship game after his team's key player responsible for guarding the last line of defense was injured. Which league did this legendary moment happen in? I'm
leaning NFL for some reason here.
Yeah.
I don't recognize
the last line of defense, though. It's very much a hockey term.
Yeah, I was thinking it's got to be either baseball or hockey or football.
Yeah, and the NHL was around then, the original 8. I'm leaning towards hockey here. And Garrett came up with these questions.
Yeah, Garrett's a hockey guy.
So Garrett and Andrew are both hockey guys.
Yeah.
So in my psychological forensic analysis of this, I'm just going to say, based on that and the last line of defense thing, that NHL is the answer.
Yeah, I think the last line of defense kind of opens that up. And I was thinking of the incident where what was the incident where it was a player that tackled the opponent that was running for a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So that wouldn't have been that.
That was in college anyway.
I think you're right. I think your detective work here is right on. And I think now we found a new loophole that they're going to have to counteract next week where if we're right, that is where they're going to be like, okay, well, damn, we can't give any clue because they're going to look into that. So now, let's go NHL.
Yeah, NHL, boom.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Murder She Wrote ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do standings of like them versus like trivia guys versus the trivia answers, but I think we've done pretty good the last couple of days. But this was definitely a little bit more challenging and cool. Good job, guys. Yeah, that's interesting. Let me learn. In the 1928 Stanley Cup Finals, Rangers coach Lester Patrick filled in as goalie after that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
After an injury, won an OT and led the team to their first cup, a legendary coach play in sports history.
Wow,
right.
there we go.
Look at him wearing the Stanley Cup. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of guys have banged near that thing.
Yeah. Done a lot of things near that thing.
So, and it goes back, like, the diseases you can catch from the cup are numerous. So, all right.
And yet they still kiss it like every single year, which I'd be a little bit maybe hesitant to do at this point. But I know they clean it all up nice and everything beforehand. But, yeah. All right. Here we go.
Okay, so I made a promise that I would eat Olive Garden if Alabama lost to Florida State, trying to reverse the dog crap curse. And look, Florida State won the game, so I have to follow through on this. Craig thought that my bet was kind of backwards, and when you explained it to me, I kind of agree with you. But Andrew, Garrett, and Brandon have decided to hold me to this. And I said, put up a poll. I'll eat whatever entree that they say. And the runaway winners, the tour of Italy. And I can't say that I'm not just a little bit relieved because I really, really don't care for fettuccine Alfredo the way that it's made in the States.
I freaking told y'all, man. You let me down here, listeners. Yeah. I could have. My idea is when we were starting to put this together and Andrew laid it all out, I said, you know what? We're sitting here going like, what does he want? Like ravioli or spaghetti? Or I was like, let's just give him plain noodles. And that would be by far the worst thing to do. And so 16% were with me and got it. But I think you guys actually voted for the best thing as far as the 4 options go. Because if I'm reading this right, it's 3 entrees, lasagna classico, fettuccine Alfredo. So there's just fettuccine. Okay, well, that actually maybe works out. Okay. Well, I apologize then, chat and audience. So fettuccine Alfredo and also chicken parmigiana, all served on one plate. So lasagna classico, fettuccine Alfredo, chicken parmigiana. But yeah, my idea was, let's give him something with no meat, and it's just plain noodles and sauce. And I knew that was going to probably be the worst thing that you could have.
Now,
so you'll get some of that.
I make my own tomato sauce and noodles all the time. I love it, but no meat in it. Just regular sauce. But I don't care. Like Alfredo is not really my thing. It never has been. I don't dislike it, but nowhere I know makes it the way it's supposed to be, which is just butter and Parmesan and Reggiano cheese. It's like some kind of sauce from a jar.
It's like cream sauce.
Yeah, it's like cream sauce. I'm not a big fan. It's mostly garbage. And so, well, the tour of Italy has it on there. So dang it.
I thought y'all had bailed him out. Chicken parmigiana and lasagna. Like, I'll eat that right now. But there is fettuccine Alfredo, just plain, it looks like. So, okay, that'll work.
You covered your bases, you little.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll DoorDash it tomorrow, and we'll eat it during the show. God. Just should have eaten the dog crap, guy. Anyway.
No, dude. Like, you know that's not true.
No, I mean, like, he should.
Oh, that guy should have, yeah. Well, no, were you here last week when I went on my rant about Smokey and pulling out these random people to go, like, if my team doesn't win this week, I'm going to go blow a guy, like that kind of thing? And I'm like, like that kind of stuff now, it's become like everybody just does that and they never follow up on it. Was there any follow up to that guy last week, by the way? I don't think there was.
He said there was a guy that did that?
He didn't say that what I said, but I mean,
like,
that's. But there's also guys that are like, I'll shove something up, like it's like, dude,
the burrito guy did it.
Yeah, you're volunteering for some weird reason, but whatever. Different strokes, different folks, I guess. But anyways, like I said, we got to stop talking about these guys if they're not going to follow up on their bets. Is what I was saying.
I'm following. Like, look, mine is fairly innocuous. It's a mediocre at best Italian restaurant that I despise. So
I like you, Olive Garden.
Yeah,
I will promote you for.
You can
look.
Here's the deal. I'm not going to be able to shove most of it down, so you guys are welcome to the rest.
Alrighty.
But I will. I'll take a bite or two of everything. And fettuccine Alfredo. Ugh.
Told y'all.
Just the worst. Just the worst. Which QB has been the most electric so far? Sawyer Robertson wins just over John Mateer at 38-37. Byron Brown at 13%. Garrett Nussmeier at 11%. The Tommy Castellanos exemption from this will not go unnoticed. No.
Yeah, he should probably be in there over Nussmeier. Nussmeier was fun week 1. He was not so much fun week 2. So, yeah, I think you could have put Castellanos on there. But as far as the answer, I mean, Mateer after last week was pretty damn electric. Yeah. Byron Brown's been a lot of fun. I mean, Sawyer wouldn't have been on here after week 1, but he had such a huge week 2 that
he's throwing up such numbers.
Yeah, he is. And really setting himself up to have a monster year with their defense not being great at all. I think they're going to have to score loads and loads of points every week. And so he's a guy that can get that done for you more often than not. So I think if they can win their games, like he's going to be in line for a lot of the, not like Heisman discussion, but, player of the year type of accolades potentially with the numbers that he's put up through 2 weeks. But yeah, I think I'd go, electric. I mean, I think I'd probably go Mateer.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like out of homerism or anything, but that's the way I think about electric. I'd probably go Mateer.
He's much more dual threat, at least this season. We haven't seen Sawyer run hardly at all, and it's worked out in the fact that he's throwing the ball over the yard. So, but that was kind of his thing last year where he ran a little bit more, but Mateer is a legit dual threat quarterback. And, I get like watching them, I get Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray vibes with the way the offense runs.
Yeah. Byron Brown's a lot of fun too. Yeah. He's just not, I don't think like as, prolific overall as a couple of these others. And then Nussmeier I don't think has been really electric at this point. I was really let down by LSU last week, honestly. I mean, I get that you had this big ramp up for a big game, but then it kind of fell flat last week. And we'll see how they do moving forward. But these are a couple guys. I don't know what the NFL thinks of John Mateer. I haven't really looked into that. I know what they think of Sawyer Robertson and Nussmeier.
Right now, if you look at, I don't know about the NFL, but the draft guys are full rod about him.
Okay, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, they're ready to rock. I mean, I watched Dane Brugler did a film breakdown and said if he continues on the path, like he wasn't – Dane's pretty reserved.
He's
Matt Miller
probably the best guy out there,
Yeah, Dane, Matt Miller, but they're like, look, he's making these throws and, plus he can move around.
It's against SEC competition.
Yeah, he doesn't just run to run, like he knows what he's doing. So that's a big thing. All right, that's going to do it for us tomorrow. We've got Edgar Thompson who covers the Florida Gators on their matchup with LSU and more. This is 365 Sports. Have a good night, everybody.